Hello, everyone. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes. So please make sure that at 1 o'clock, y'all have your cameras on and you are ready to go. Okay, everyone, please make sure your cameras are on. I want to give you all credit for attending today. Okay, cool. Justin's coming on. Alan, get back. Okay, yay, Alan's here. Luis, connect faster. Okay, Katrina's on. I'm waiting for her name to show up so she can get credit.
I'm here.
No, I know. I see you. It would just said connecting instead of your name, and that's what I'm looking for. Okay, cool. So, Luis, turn on your camera. Luis. Okay, there he is. Perfect. Hey, Mike, do me a favor. Please put your Mike, listen. Mike, listen. Stop talking to the person you're talking to. Change your last name because I don't know which Mike you are. Oh my God. Help me help you, bro. Who knows Mike? Does anyone?
He can hear now. Usually he has headphones in.
Okay. We're just gonna figure it out later. Okay, everybody, wait, Alicia, help me.
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. Help me help you. I want everyone to get credit for this. Cool. You're not gonna sit here for 3 hours and not get credit. That's silly. Okay, so taking picture number 1, hooray. And taking picture number 2, hooray. Ooh, Crystal, just in time. Okay, perfect. Thank y'all very much. So following up from last class, did y'all have any questions when we had Michael? Any questions at all? Did you all get his name, email address, whatever you needed from him? Perfect. Thank you, some of you, for nodding. It's really hard to like ask questions and then no one says anything.
I have a good question. Did he ever send the email that he said he was going to send out to everybody?
Stand by. He was going to email it to me to get to everyone's whatever, like on the PC for our office, like the assistant team leaders, whoever it is. He never emailed me, so I will remind him.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And how did your showing go on Saturday?
Oh gosh, oh my land. Of the one that everyone kept calling, girl.
Yeah.
I tell you, I had to put my phone on do not disturb. We have, I don't know, like 30 something offers.
Oh, that's great.
It's yes. Oh yes. No, like, let me get you, like, it's a great problem to have. It's just when you're trying to do Ignite and you're trying to coach agents and you're trying to have a life and phone won't stop. Oh my word. That's why I was like, I'm telling you exactly what to do. But yes. Okay. Session 9 notes. Were you going to send something out to the Ignite peeps from your class? I just emailed him so that he can get that to me, and then I will get it to everyone's.
Thank you.
Yes, everyone's office representative. Perfect. Any other questions? And the reason I'm asking is because I wanted to get them out of the way now, because Lanisha Smith, who is teaching today's class, is her appointment went a little bit longer, so she is on her way to her computer right now. And I just wanted to be helpful in the meantime. How are offers going? Let's chat about who's written offers and gotten them accepted. Give you a congrats. Maybe if you're not getting them accepted, let's mastermind around that.
I just got one accepted yesterday.
Nice. That is amazing in today's market. So tell me more about that.
I am excited. Yeah, it's actually my parents are my buyer.
Okay.
And I had been having them let me use them as my guineas to practice showing properties and stuff, and they ended up falling in love with the house and wanted to put it in offer. So
hold on, I'm sorry. They weren't actually going to purchase a home?
Not yet. They were going to wait about
such a good buyer's agent that you got them to find a home just practicing. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just need to start taking my friends around houses. Is that what you're telling me? Like, amazing. Okay, good for you. Justin said, go Crystal.
As far as like once the contract is accepted, do you know if there's anything I need to do with it?
Yes. So, and Robin says, congrats. Are you going to be using a transaction coordinator, or are you going to be doing it yourself?
I would like to use a coordinator if possible.
Yeah. So the Rawls group, just for all of y'all, because this really is going to go a little bit along with negotiating the deal. So good. This is relevant to today's class. Thank you, Crystal. I would strongly recommend that you always use a contract, a transaction coordinator, contract coordinator, whatever you want to call it, because there's a sense of professionalism that comes along with it and having someone on your team. Now, I use Churchwell Group, have for years, and they are $375 if it closes, paid at the closing. It just comes right off the check, just like my cap does, right? So if you want to do it that way, awesome. The Rawls Group has a new service rolling out. We have a new program. They just announced this at our team meeting. I don't know about y'all's, but it's called the Lift program. Have y'all heard about that yet?
Mhm.
A lot of, what's this called? Head shakes. Okay, great. So within the Rawls group, we are going to be doing a couple different pieces of leverage for y'all. So like I said, I normally pay $375 for the Churchwell group to do it. I'm going to put that in the chat. They have a web, it's literally thechurchwellgroup.com. If you want to use the Rawls group transaction coordinator services between now and the end of May, it's actually only $325. It will go to that 375 kind of like standard starting June 1st. So if you go ahead and use them now, $325, and not only are they going to make sure that all of your documents are loaded into Command properly, which I'll pay for that just because we all know that that's not a good time, right? And that's not in our 20% of being a real estate agent. They will also do a lot of the communication on your behalf. So they're going to get the
Somewhere, I just don't know.
the binded offer from you. They're going to send it to the closing attorney. If there's a lender involved, they're going to send it to the lender. They're going to send it to the listing agent once everything is bound. And they're going to say, hey, look, this is when earnest money is due. This is when the due diligence ends, just to confirm everyone has the right dates. They're going to put those, they're going to send you a calendar invite of all of those dates so that you remember, and they're going to remind you a couple days before each one. Hey, Crystal, remember the due diligence ends in 3 days. Have you gotten the ATAX signed? Blah, 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 right? I think the best thing, well, it's really good that they do all the command documents because I don't use DocuSign, I use Dotloop. And she just, Mary Catherine just takes all of my documents. She puts it in command. I always get paid at closing. I never have to like redo stuff in there and then not get paid till days later. It's awesome. The other thing is they will do all the communication for you, and it really does save you time. And I think it helps make you look a lot more professional because you have a team surrounded with you. So they will present themselves to your clients as part of Crystal Godwin's team, which I think just makes you look better. And they're also going to be able to email and do a lot behind the scenes while you're showing, while you're doing this or this. I've called up my transaction coordinator and been like, Mary Catherine, I am having a crazy day and due diligence ends today. We haven't gotten them to agree. Can you please draft an amendment that extends due diligence 2 more days and then send it out for signatures? So while I'm driving, showing other buyers' houses, she's writing up that amendment. She sent it to my buyers to sign. After they signed it, she sent it to the listing agent to sign, and everything. She can do all of that. The only thing that they can't do if they're not licensed is the lead-based paint disclosure and the amendment to address concerns. Unlicensed transaction coordinators cannot do those. The ones in the Rawls group are going to all be licensed. I think some of them are still getting licensed. Mine is not licensed, so she can't do anything with an amendment to address concerns, but she can do other amendments for me and exhibits and stuff like that. So it will probably save you at least 10 hours on each transaction. And during those 10 hours, you need to be going out and getting more pieces of business, and they make sure everything is done properly and you get paid on time.
How do you sign up for that?
That's a really good question. So
Okay.
stand by. Do you have a productivity coach?
Mm-mm.
Okay, in that case, who's your assistant team leader?
Sandy Miner is my manager at my office. I'm not sure about.
Yeah, ask her then how you would get involved. And I apologize, I don't know because I already have one, and so I wasn't paying attention.
It's okay.
Pam Meek is ours at Cityside, Crystal.
Who?
Pam Meek.
Pam Meet. Okay.
If you
I
plan
can-
on doing the Churchwell thing, I just signed up. So you can go to their website. They have like a orientation thing where you fill out, it's like a Google form, and then you'll just submit the contracts you need and then choose which coordinator you want to work with. I recommend Nancy Tate. She's good, but you can kind of talk to different people and see.
Justin, would you send that link for us, please, in the chat? Thank you.
I think it's churchwellgroup.com, but
It's the churchwellgroup.com.
okay.
So to show you what that looks like, If you do not already have one set up with this company, you will need to call them first. And so contact them and make sure that you get one going. Once you're paired with one, you're going to do /contracts. And you're gonna upload the binding contract here. You'll put your name in, your email. This is where you pick which specific one you're assigned to. So you said Nancy Tate, Justin. I use Mary Catherine. She's amazing. And then you're going to answer a couple questions here. You only need to do the ones with asterisks. Don't feel like you need to do these. And then upload, and then they'll start working on it within the next couple hours. Now,
Awesome.
only work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And I say that, but honestly, has Mary Catherine done stuff before 9 and after 5? Yeah, but you can't like bank on that. So when you go binding, I strongly suggest that you use transaction coordinator. I apologize that I don't know exactly where you need to go right now for the Lift program one that's through the Rawls group. That one will be $325. If it's new construction or cash, I think it's $275. But the $325 will go up to $375 starting June 1st. Cash and new construction will still be $275. There's just a little bit less to do. If you only want them to do your command documents, then it's $125. But I will say there's a lot to be said for that, all that communication. It's not just uploading the documents to command.
Quick question, the 325
Mhm.
for, we're talking about the Churchwell group?
Churchwell Group's $375. If you go through the Rawls Group Lift program, it's $325 through the end of May for the same stuff that Churchwell Group does. And then it will go to $375. It's just like a, hey, come start using us. We're going to give you a $50 discount for the first couple months.
Okay, first couple of months. So it only lasts, you sign up for the 375 with Churchwell Group, and how long it lasts again? Just trying to be clear.
I got you. So the Rawls Group, what Churchwell Group is always going to be $375.
A month, or I'm just trying to understand how much.
Okay, maybe I don't
I
understand.
I guess I misunderstood. The 375 with Churchwell Group
Uh-huh.
is for the month, or is it for 3
Per
months?
transaction.
Per transaction, thank you.
Yes. Mhm.
Per transaction,
Paid at closing.
got you. Paid at closing, perfect.
Oh, yes. If you don't close, there is no reason why you need to be paying.
Paying them. Got it.
No,
Okay.
no. I would never want to pay someone a month.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So,
Do the Churchwell group, do they do the command
yes.
work as well?
Mhm.
Documents? Okay.
Yep,
Thank
that's why I started using them, because that is not my area of expertise.
I wish I'd
Okay.
have known this 2 weeks ago.
Well,
Half of my-
the Lift program just started last week, but Churchwell Group has been around for a long time. So.
Putting the documents in.
No, it's not a
is-
good time. No, save your time. You could have gone and gotten another lead during that time. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, especially when half of them are rejected because you didn't do it right.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to start this off since we're still waiting for Lanisha to hop on. So let's just be going over some of these first couple of items. How's Ignite going? Are you ready to be done? I bet you are. You got today's class and 2 more, and then the final. Have we been doing our missions? It says practice scripts with a partner. Did you watch the 27-minute long movie on negotiating? Did you do your 10-4? Help me to understand. Yay, if you are, that's awesome. If you're not, help me to understand maybe why you don't love those activities or what any hesitation is with doing them. Does anyone want to say anything?
Well, practicing strips. I know that I'm gonna do something with Robin
Okay.
Robin, right? Did I say with Robin? Yep, it has to be with Robin.
Okay.
So that I could get comfortable, because I know in class, it's not, I'm a chatterbox, we know, right, y'all? But not really when it come to that. So her and I
Okay.
do a little bit of one-on-one so that I could kind of get comfortable and not stumble.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love it. And if there's an agent in your office that is doing cold calls or any type of lead generation over the phone, that's really good, maybe ask them, hey, can I just sit and listen to you for 30 minutes or an hour? You don't say anything. Literally, if you sit there and listen to them, even if like it's not on speaker and you don't hear what the other person's saying, you're going to pick up so many good questions to ask, things to say, stuff like that. So try just sitting in a room if there's people doing lead gen at your office. All right. What is next? A great positive affirmation that you can use is, I tune into the needs of those I'm calling and find solutions that work. Great. So if you need some positive affirmation to say prior to getting your lead gen on, there you go. A lot of people, when they're doing phone call lead generation, they're standing up. Maybe you have a desk that will stand. Maybe you're pacing your house. I pace when I'm on an important phone call. Maybe you are have a mirror right there to remind yourself to smile. You sound happier when you're smiling. Okay, get your head in the game. So we have submitted an offer, and now we're going to be doing the negotiations on those. Or if you're the listing agent, you've received the offer, and now we're going to go back and forth to find a win-win solution for all parties. So we are down here. We've had a whole bunch of leads, led to a good amount of appointments, led to a few agreements, and now we're here at the contract. All right. Perfect. Make it happen. So with negotiating, you are always negotiating. When do you think the rapport building starts with the listing agent, if you're the buyer's agent? When do you start building that rapport?
I know Michael had talked about like calling them before you go to the showing.
Yep, absolutely. So you are going to start the second that you start having any kind of communication, texting, phone call, whatever, that's when your rapport starts. So if you are a positive person who is grateful, thank you for taking my call. I know you must get a lot of calls on the property, super cute. Just wanted to make sure it was still available before I go show it. That kind of thing. Awesome. That's when it starts. Perfect. So negotiations, just bargaining, give and take between two or more parties so that we get to common ground and everyone can move forward. At Keller Williams, we always want to be win-win solution. And I know that you want your clients to win, but we also don't want to show up for closing and the other side hates us, because that's really uncomfortable. And it's not fair for the other side to be taken advantage of, etc. Yes, they probably have an agent too, but we just want to make sure that everyone is playing nicely in the sandbox during the transaction. Okay. Now, the seller does not talk to the buyer's agent. The buyer doesn't talk to the listing agent, and the buyer and seller don't talk together. Okay. Seller goes to their agent, who talks to the buyer's agent, who goes to the buyer. And sometimes that back and forth communication can take a little bit of time, and you may not hear back right away, especially if they're in another time zone or they're traveling or they work or something like that. It may take a little while. So have great communication, let people know what their expectations are of when they're going to hear back, etc. And I think Lanisha's logging. Lanisha, are you on? Okay, I don't hear her yet. Okay, so we're going to skip this video for right now because I don't think we could hear it last time. Is that correct? Okay. Okay, negotiating tips. So above all, always be professional. Okay, you always want to make sure that you are polite because one, you represent your brokerage, okay, and Keller Williams, but two, you represent your clients, and your clients may actually be the best buyers, but If that listing agent doesn't want to work with you because you're a muffin head, then they may overlook your buyers, and that's not fair to them. I'm just trying to get Lanisha connected. I'm sorry. I apologize, guys. Give me 1 second to make sure that she can get in. Any questions about negotiating? Right. Okay. Okay, so make sure that you remember that your goal is to get your clients the home that they love. Okay, you don't even necessarily have to get it for the best steal of a deal. You just have to be able to get them into the home that they love and protecting them. Okay, so keep your ego out of it. Are you the one buying this home? No. So no emotions should be coming from you. And you are Switzerland. You're really neutral. Okay. Even if the listing agent starts to get heated, remain in professional Switzerland mode. All right, perfect. Continually refer back to motivation. So if you know why the sellers are selling, you may want to, and you may not know that, but if you know it, you may want to remind the listing agent during the negotiations, hey, we just want to get them to Florida with their family. You know, like let's get to a win-win here. I know how much your clients want to get down to Florida, or I know how much they want to sell this so that they can be in their new home. Remind your clients of their motivation. Hey, this is where you said you saw your kids growing up. Would you be willing to pay an extra $2,000 in purchase price if that's what it takes to beat them out, the other buyers out, so that you can raise your kids here? Remind them of that. Bring your clients back to emotion. Logic makes you think, emotion makes you act. Don't reveal too much. Oh my goodness, do not talk too much about your people, their situation, etc. to the other agent. They may ask questions. Well, let me ask you, why are they looking in this exact school district? Okay, that's fine. Well, they want their kids to move in there. Okay, great. How qualified are they with the lender? Have you gone through that process of getting them underwritten yet, etc.? You can answer questions like that, but when it comes to asking anything that may not give them the competitive edge over other buyers, don't reveal your cards. Don't be too attached to the outcome. You're going to do a bunch of sales. If you have commission breath, it will come across like that. Don't push your buyers to remain in a sale that actually isn't going to work out for them. Or if they're like, look, you know what, I think we're having second thoughts. Okay, tell me more about that. Ask questions, come from curiosity. Well, let me ask you, when we put the offer in, you really loved the home. And now that we're kind of going back and forth, it sounds to me like there may be a little bit of doubt. Help me understand that. Okay, don't push them, you want this, stay in, blah, blah, blah. They're going to think you're only doing that to get a paycheck. You may actually wind up losing that client. Does that make sense? Okay, common points of negotiation. So price. When the price is the number one most important thing to people, it is what it is. Either you're the highest priced or you're not. Now, most of them will give you closing costs. That's okay, but it's all about the net to the seller. So if a home is listed at $550 and you're offering $550, but you're asking for 10 grand in closing costs, what does the seller actually think that offer is for?
115.
Wait, what? Hold on. If it's five,
You said, go ahead again.
hold on, Izzy, what were you saying?
I said they'd basically be accepting an offer for 540 if it's 10 closing costs.
Yeah, so if the buyers are like, cool, we're going to give you a full price offer at 550, but we're asking for 10 grand in closing costs.
540, 540.
Yeah. The seller, I was like, I think you just heard a wrong number. No worries. The seller is going to look at that like 540. So the price is important, but really it's the net to the seller. Okay. Because someone can go and offer 560 and ask for 10 grand in closing. That's the same as a 550. Also, it may not appraise for that extra 10 grand higher. So I would want the seller to go with the 550, not the 560 with the 10 grand in closing. Does that make sense? So the price is important. Really, it's more the net to the seller. But especially when appraisals are taken into consideration, you really don't want to elevate that price too much unless they're willing to come out of pocket above that appraised price. Now, the terms are super important. The combination of the price and the terms of an offer is what makes or breaks it, not just the price. Because I could say that I'm going to give you $1 million for a home, but if I don't want to close for 300 days, you're not, what are we doing here, right? Or if I wanted like a 2-week due diligence period, how serious of a buyer am I? I don't want to take just the best offer. I want on paper, I want to take the best chance that these sellers get the most money at the closing table. Does that make sense? Because some people will put in offers and they'll walk away real fast. The inspection may not even be that bad and they will walk away fast. I don't want to put my seller through that. I don't want to make it look like I didn't vet these buyers properly. So I want to make sure that the terms are good. So closing costs, we kind of talked about that. In the state of Georgia, buyers typically pay their own closing costs. I don't know if you guys are from other states or if you've ever had a license in a different state, but other states, it's not always the buyer that pays it. So just know that if you're like ever talking to another agent, right? Buyers typically pay their closing costs, but it's very normal for sellers, for them to ask sellers to cover all or part of it. If you're asking up front for like them to cover all the closing costs, I, as a listing agent, may say, do you even like have money to buy the house then? Because if you don't have any of your own closing costs, do you have money for the inspection? Do you have money for the appraisal? Things like that, right? And the earnest money is going to come out of your account. So I'm going to be a little concerned if I see that right off the bat, they're asking for full closing. As a listing agent, I may ask more clarifying questions around that. Doesn't mean that it's bad. And that happens a lot. I've asked for full closing costs for people before, but you just want to make sure that you are looking like a really strong buyer if you're asking for all that. Closing date, that can be very, very important to a seller. Some sellers are buying another house and they have to sell this house in order to buy the other one. So maybe they want to sell the house in the morning on a Friday and then buy the next house like in an hour later. And they need them to happen on the same day, right? Same closing attorney, same day. That will be very important to them. That will help you win. Some of them are like, hey, look, I want to close March 30th, but I want to remain in the home till April 7th because I need a week to move out. I need the funds, then we're going to buy, and then I need a week to move out, right? So all those things may be really important. Ask the other agent, what's important to your sellers? When someone texts me that, asking that, love it. I'm like, awesome. This is probably someone I really want to work with. And I'll be very upfront. An ideal offer would be this, 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 and this. You may not be able to give us all of those items, but that would be ideal if you could meet the majority of those. Do y'all know what conveyances are? Tell me what a conveyance is. These are listed on the seller's property disclosure on the second to last page with checkboxes.
I was gonna say, Katie, is it just what's being transferred? Is that?
It's what's staying with the house.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you, Bridget. Perfect. So they are things that are staying with the property. Now, almost always, those are going to be items that are like fixed to the property. Like I have sellers that have a family heirloom chandelier in the dining room. That's fixed to the property. So very specifically in the seller's property disclosure, they stated chandelier not staying. And so that's fine. They can take it now because the buyers know that that's not going to be staying. But if they didn't state that and then they took it, well, someone's going to have to replace that with a chandelier. Conveyances are going to stay with the property. So you can always ask in the special stipulations for something to stay with the house. Even if they're like, no, we're not going to leave the washer and dryer, and they didn't check those boxes on the seller's property disclosure, you can totally in the special stipulations say all parties agree washer and dryer will convey with property at no cost to buyers. So that's super common. I'm going to put it in the chat. All parties agree washer and dryer will convey with, remain with, whatever you want to say, convey with property at no expense to buyers. So just put that in the chat. Really common stipulation if you're asking for appliances and stuff like that. When we start to talk about expensive items, AKA pool tables, outdoor furniture, stuff like that, you need to do what's called a bill of sale. It's another document that will go along with the offer because those high-priced items could start to affect the property's worth. And so those need to be done on a, even if it's selling them for zero, cool, they're remaining with the property for zero cost, you put the more expensive things on a bill of sale. Is anyone confused by that? I just want to make sure everyone's clear.
I do have a question. In your scenario where you talked about the antique chandelier, so would the seller be replacing the chandelier, or is it just gonna?
Great question. Because what would, so, okay, let's, fun game. Rochelle, what do you think?
Well, I would think they would, I guess.
If you were the buyer's agent and you saw that on the property disclosure.
Yes, I would be asking for them to replace it, definitely.
Perfect. Exactly. And I think unless you got clarity on that or you asked specifically in writing, if nothing was left there, I don't think it would be the seller's fault. So I'm glad that you asked that question because that is something that a buyer's agent would want to confirm. Hey, I see that the chandelier isn't going to be staying in the dining room. Are they putting up a light? Sure, but you know what? They're just going to go to Home Depot and get a $30 thing and slap it up there. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure there's a light, you know? Or if they said no, that's when I would put in the special stipulations, seller will have blah, 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 installed. I would be very specific. Cool, I bought you a light. What's sitting in the box in the middle of the dining room table? No, seller will have light installed in dining room table prior to closing. Does that make sense?
Right. Or could we ask for them to give us an allowance and we pick our own?
Yeah, love that. Perfect. Or that could be something that you specifically asked for additional closing costs for because your peeps are going to go have to spend cash on it. So it'll just save them cash up front. Love it. Great question. Lanisha, are you here? I don't see her yet. Okay. Earnest money and option fee. Okay. So,
Hey, Katie.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you? How are you guys doing?
Everyone say hey to Lanisha. So Lanisha Smith is one of our top agents at Keller Williams Peachtree Road. And so she is going to take over from here. Lanisha, do you want to share your screen?
1 second.
No worries.
Juggling here. Sorry, you guys, for my delay. Let's see.
Great news. I've taught the class before.
A time or two, right?
A couple. Yeah, just only once or twice.
Katie, did you forward that package? Because I don't.
I did. Yeah, it was on one of the last emails.
Yep.
And that we are at the bottom of page 13, about to go over earnest money. I've never done option money. So that would be a really good one to talk about in today's market because that is helping people to win. So
yep.
I've never done it, but definitely chat about that.
Okie dokie.
Do you want me to stop sharing my screen?
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
You're going to see me in here twice.
That's cool.
So. Okay, let me pull this up.
I'm gonna talk on earnest money real quick. So
Okay.
earnest money is not like a down payment. Earnest money is going to be given upfront by the buyers, typically in the form of a cash or a check or wire within about 3 days of going under contract. Does anyone know the amount of earnest money that you would put down on a home? What's our industry?
1%.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
Melissa, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say 1%, but I have seen some offers where they even put like 2 or 3%.
Yes.
Or something like
Yes.
that, just to entice the seller a little more.
Exactly. Because, and I've had this happen. This happens, y'all. It's crazy out here. We were under contract. We were supposed to close on a Monday. Guess what happened on Sunday? The buyers pulled out. And I was like, okay, cool. Sign the release of the earnest money over to my sellers. Because that's not cool. So we needed to make sure that in the event that it happened, and it finally happened to me, took me about 3 years, but I finally had someone walk away the day before closing. I'm going to make sure that my clients get that money. So Lanisha, we're at the bottom of page 13 and I see your thing, but you may want to blow it up just a little bit so that we can read. Perfect. Appreciate you. So yes, earnest money is typically 1%, but it makes you look real serious. Like you're not just going to walk away. On that house that was listed for $200,000. A bunch of investors be like, okay, cool. We'll give you $1,000 earnest money. First of all, no. Second of all, I almost want more than 1% when it's an investor because they're not emotionally attached and they can walk away a little easier than someone emotionally attached to a property. So I want to make sure if they're going to do that, it financially hurts a little bit, but then also I want to make sure that my sellers get a little something something for being inconvenienced, essentially having to go back on the market. So
Ready?
Lanisha, you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. I really appreciate you.
Yes, appreciate you.
Alrighty, so we're on page 13.
Oh, hey, you are really echoing. So if you're on your phone and computer, I would turn the sound off of one of them.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Am I better?
Yes. Thank you, Bill.
Alrighty. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Again, I'm Lanisha Smith. I am agent in our market center. I've been with our market center for 4 years. Served on ALC several years, all that good stuff. We can talk about me later. Just let me know if you guys have questions. I just want to go ahead and continue where Katie left off. Okay. So we were on earnest money, correct? Earnest money?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Okay, yeah, so earnest money, I did hear someone say that earnest money is typically 1%, right? That's typically what you will see in the Atlanta metro market is 1% of the sales price provided as your earnest money deposit to go along with your contracts. I do want to note one thing. I know Katie wanted me to kind of hit more on the option. When you're in competitive situations, obviously, you know, many times you guys want to go higher than 1%. Just to kind of show your seriousness, just to kind of put a little more skin in the game to make the seller a little more interested in accepting your client's offer over someone else's. That goes back to the terms of a contract, which is what we're discussing. Option money, you can always give additional monies to show your seriousness or to maybe just kind of cause the seller to be a little more attracted to your offer, and you can make that option money. It can be non-refundable, so it just kind of maybe secures your client a little more to the transaction, to give the seller that comfortability that this person is more likely going to move forward because they just put down $5,000 of unrefundable money, you know. Okay, so that's option money. Then we have repairs. That's another thing that's included in the terms. Most often, repairs, most offers are contingent on the outcome of the home inspection and necessary repairs. Depending on the complexity of the repairs, the buyer may ask the seller to make the repairs prior to closing, which is usually subject to an inspection, or they'll deduct the repairs from the cost of the sales price, or or the seller provide them monies towards closing costs. Have you guys had any situations where you've negotiated, had to negotiate repairs? Anybody want to chime in?
Lanisha, I can chime in. This is Robin. So I had we put in an offer for like 205, and then we did the inspection and the repairs came back, and it was being sold as is. So we weren't expecting repairs anyways, but it was such a large amount of repairs. We actually negotiated for a lower cost. And so we ended up settling at 202.5, and then I got the appraisal back on Friday, and it actually appraised for 207. So good job for me.
Yay. Good job. There's so many ways you can go with that. You know what I mean? There's so many ways you can go with repairs. One thing that you guys, if you do have the seller to provide additional monies to cover repairs, you have to keep in mind the percent that your lender will allow a seller to contribute towards a buyer's closing costs. Okay. Do you guys, anybody know or have any idea of what percent a lender will usually allow a seller to contribute? Anyone?
Isn't it 6%?
Yes, yes. And of course, it depends on the loan type, but typically you'll see 6%. You know, there's a lot of ways that you can get creative with that, with being able to maximize your clients receiving as much as possible from a seller. Of course, in a non-competitive situation, you'll have that. Sometimes we wanted to maximize the 6% that a seller can contribute. So we had the seller pay a vendor at closing, because the 6% typically will exceed what the buyer needs, you know? So that's just another little strategy I just want to throw out there to you, that vendors can be paid at closing by the seller. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the 3 Ps approach. Quick question: do you guys see your the screen with the gallery of you guys on here? Do you see it? Is it in a way?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Okay, so the 3 Ps approach. Negotiation is a skill that can be learned and perfected with experience. The best practice for negotiating and bringing the buyer and seller together is the 3 Ps approach, which is 1, prepare, 2, present, and 3, position. Okay. First, we're going to talk about prepare. Preparation is key to building confidence and ensuring a smooth negotiation process. Okay. So when it comes to that, you have to know your goal. You have to have a clear goal of reaching a win-win agreement in which both the buyer and the seller are satisfied with the outcome of the negotiation. Remind your client of their motivation for moving or buying a house, and that when the contract closes, they'll be able to move on with their lives. So know the goal, because a lot of times sometimes, depends on the buyer. You have to just kind of remind them of what their ultimate goal is, from throughout the process. Because as you guys know, it can be an emotional process for some of your clients. It's a lot of money being spent. Know your client. Make sure you fully understand your client's goals. Learn the areas in which they are willing to negotiate and where they will stand firm. Okay. Think ahead. Anticipate what other parties want out of negotiation. Write down how you think they may counter, or how they may counter the offer, and how you plan to handle it. Okay. Many times, if you guys are representing a buyer, you guys want to have a great conversation with that listing agent so you can have an understanding of what's important to the seller. Okay. All of these, knowing this information allows you to better structure your client's offer, especially if it's a competitive situation. You know, communication is so important in negotiating. It's so important. The more you have communication, and Katie may have hit on this, the more communication there is, the more understanding. So you want to ask lots of probing questions. Allow the other party to speak so you can just take in everything, so you'll know how to cater your client's offer to the seller if you're representing the buyer. Set clear expectations. So prior to meeting with the other party, set clear and realistic expectations with your client, and then under promise and over deliver. Okay, it's always great to under promise because they will hold you to it. Okay, stress the importance of moving quickly to create a sense of urgency. Part of setting clear expectations with your client is being clear that win-lose agreements are likely to be rejected by the other side. Set yourself up for success and make it a win-win. Okay. Again, having great communication. Be informed. Before making an offer or counter offer is good practice to speak with the other agent. Like I mentioned before, you want to ask open-ended questions and use active listening to find out as much as you can about the other party and their agent. This helps you know with whom you are negotiating, on what points you will negotiate, and where you and your client will have leverage. Okay. Sometimes you may be speaking to an agent and they're pretty, tight-lipped. You know what I mean? Sometimes they don't really give you information. So a lot of times you have to actually ask the question, like ask certain questions or probing questions to try to get some information out of them. Obey the laws, of course. Every state and locality has its own set of laws that regulates zoning, mortgage qualifications, and other real estate matters. Stay current on your local regulations and stay out of court. Okay? You always want to stay out of court. Obey the laws. And one thing too, guys, I feel like I just want to let you know, like, you will stay out of trouble if you don't think about money. So never let money be a driving force. Never let commission be a motivation. Okay. Just keep that completely off the table. If you're not thinking about your money and what you're going to make, and you're strictly thinking about your client, which is our job, you'll be totally fine. Okay. Know your documents inside and out. Become familiar with your local board of realtors governing forms. Take the time needed to understand the forms and templates and what belongs in each field. This is extremely important, guys. There's a lot of agents that write offers, but don't read the forms. It's easy to just go in and fill in the blanks, but for you to be the best fiduciary for your client possible, you need to know and understand the contracts. Understanding the contracts allows you to have a deeper level when it comes to strategizing for your clients. Okay. Knowledge is power. You cannot have the knowledge of your contracts if you do not read them. You have to have that. So it's good to kind of overlook those and review them every so often. Just read through them periodically and not just practice on your clients when it comes to your contracts. Because a lot of times, especially if you're working with first-time home buyers, they're going to have a lot of questions. They're going to know what certain things mean and all that good stuff. So you want to definitely keep that in mind. Okay. So to prepare to negotiate, we're just going to talk about a scenario. Here's the scenario. You are representing a single buyer. Your client is renting her present property. Like any first-time buyer, she is looking to you to guide her through the process. The asking price for the home she really loves is $175,000. The house appears to have evidence of a roof leak. It's listed as is and is correctly priced. Your client would like to keep her payments as low as possible since she still has a number of student loans to pay off. She wants to write an offer for $155,000. There has been quite a bit of activity on this listing. So what questions, you guys just kind of think through that and think of 3 specific questions that you would ask your client in this scenario. Just take like maybe a few minutes and think of some questions.
Lanisha, you mean what we're gonna be asking the person that we're representing?
Yes, the buyer. You're representing the buyer.
Okay.
Just a quick question. Do we know what the buyer is approved for? Or have we had the buyer talk to a lender yet?
Well, no, those are great questions. That's stuff that you would know in this situation, right? But just strictly sticking with, the information they've given us. So we're going to assume that the buyer is already pre-approved, right? We're going to assume that she's pre-approved for at least the asking price. Let's just go that route for a second. She's approved for at least 175. Okay, but she wants to write an offer for 155 in a competitive situation.
I want to know how much money she has to put down.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Definitely. You want to know that. So any other questions that you guys would ask this client?
How much do you think it would cost to replace the roof?
Okay.
Earnest money?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, good. Good. Those are good questions. Now I'm gonna throw some out there for you. Some things that I would ask this client in this situation. She's pre-approved. She can cover this price. She can cover this. There's competition. Yes, it does have a roof issue, right? The listing agent has it listed as is, right? Which to me, that means nothing, just so you guys know. As is, a lot of agents will put, and I'll just give you this, a lot of agents will put that in here, put that in a listing. Typically, you'll see that with an investment property, investor-owned listing, where the individual has not lived in the property, okay? I just think it's just not wanting to disclose things. I'm not gonna say everyone just don't want to disclose, but it's just an easy way to just, I don't know what their motivation is, just to not have to take on repairs. You can't say you're selling a property as is with the intentions of saying that I don't want to make any repairs. I just want you to know up front, I don't want to do anything. Okay. So in just know that if I see a listing and it says as is, I know it's an investment property, no disclosures are being provided, I'm still going to reach out to that agent and ask them, have they completed the seller's property disclosure statement? And if they have not, I'll ask them to do it. Okay. Now, of course, we have to weigh out the situation. If it's a competitive situation, we don't want to push too much, you just know you need to do your due diligence. You need to have your buyer do their due diligence. So as far as questions I would ask the buyer, what makes her want to offer 155? And I would just listen to what her concerns are. She may say, oh, well, this roof is going to cost me $30,000, Now that's something you can work with, right? You can actually help and go out and get some quotes. You can let her know that during due diligence, we'll just have a roofer come out or someone to come out and give you a quote. You can get several quotes. But I would want to just ask that question and just listen to what she would say. Anybody else have a thought, something they want to throw out there?
I would also ask her how she would feel if she didn't get this house, knowing that it's well within her means.
Exactly. That's a great question. That's a really good question. Because a lot of times
I would ask her how bad she wants it, if she's willing to compete, if she's willing to pay $175,000.
Good question.
Well, I would ask her, what are the features in the house that she loves, that she wants to put an offer? And then if she's prepared that they accept 155, is she still ready to spend the money for the new roof? So then I would probably try to tie in the features that she said she loved and see if there were other properties that she could find more close to her price range where she doesn't have to put in money to fix the roof.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah, so a lot of times with a buyer, that is once you ask that question, they'll just start pouring these things out, their concerns. And a lot of times those are issues that you can help them with. You can help them resolve, because a lot of times especially if it's the first time, they just don't know what to expect. Right. And sometimes in like this situation, she wants to offer 20,000 below list price. In a competitive situation, of course we know that's not going to fly, right? One thing just to let you guys know is when it comes to your buyers, the best way to handle situations like this or prevent them from happening is to have a great consultation. I'm really big on having a thorough consultation up front with a buyer, at least an hour. I would do an hour and a half with a buyer, especially a first-time home buyer. Usually it's a first-time home buyer where it takes that long, but I just go through the process. I let them know what to expect. I let them know that it's very likely we can experience multiple offers, because once they get out there and they start looking at properties and making offers, they're more comfortable because they already know what to expect, because you've already set that expectation. Okay. And more than likely, what you set in that expectation, they're not going to come in $20,000 below the list price. Right. Any other questions or comments that you guys want to chime in with here? Regarding that? Has anybody had that situation where a buyer wanted to come in a competitive situation 20,000 below, or even just below list price?
Yeah,
I actually have.
Low. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Do you want to go first, Izzy?
No, you can. You're fine.
So I actually had a buyer that wanted to go below list price and was still asking for help in her closing costs. And we kind of explained to her, like, hey, like the possibility of you getting this house is like so slim. And she was just very adamant. Of course, we ended up writing the offer, but it was kind of like a waste of time to even submit that offer just because like she wasn't going to get it.
Yeah.
And she was very adamant also about the school district. She was just like, school district, and didn't even want to look any.
We can't hear you. Hello?
Melissa, you muted yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, so we ended up making the offer, and of course we didn't get it. So
Okay, gotcha. Awesome. All right, let's go to the next one. Hold on one second. You guys, can you hold on 1 second, okay? Like 5 minutes, okay?
Wait, hey, Lanisha.
Yes.
Do you want me to take over for while you're?
Sure. Yeah. Let me grab that really quick, Katie.
I apologize, y'all.
Sorry about that.
Which part did you just finish?
We are on number 2, presenting the present of the 3 Ps.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so whenever I get the offer, I want to figure out for my clients, what are we going to do, right? So likely we would be countering something, right? So it's not, maybe it's not the price, maybe it's not the closing date, maybe they asked for like a 10-day due diligence, and I'm like, look, we're all good here, except can we get that down to like 7 days? We just don't want to be off the market any longer than we need to be, right? So I'm going to call them, and most of those negotiations I'm going to want to do via a texting, email, phone conversation. I don't necessarily want to write it up, just yet and send over an official counter. A lot of times I want to go back and forth a little bit first to see, like, for example, I'm still going through all these offers that we got on that house. I want to find, is there an investor that not only will be the highest price, will they be no days due diligence? Because one of them has said that they won't do any days of due diligence, but it's not the highest priced. So I want to call a couple of these. And if you received several offers, if you're the listing agent, there's nothing wrong with verbally negotiating multiple people at one time. But if you send over a signed counter offer and you're waiting to hear what the buyers are going to do with it, you can't accept any other offers during that time. So for a couple reasons, I do not want to send over an official counter offer until I get a couple things nailed down. Maybe another offer was going to come in, but I couldn't take it if I've already done an official counter form. So I want to have some verbal conversation or text conversation back and forth first about our terms, and then we will we can write that up on an official counter offer doc. On the counter offer doc, there are a bunch of blanks. You only fill out the ones that you are changing, if that makes sense. James just said thank you, but I don't know what you're saying thank you to, but you're welcome. Feel free to unmute. But what was I gonna say? Okay. The screen moves, so I don't.
Now, just for stepping up, taking over. We're getting a lot of information from you today.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Also, the screen moves, so I don't know. I don't know where we are. Stand by. Oh, here we go. Okay, pay attention to nonverbal cues. Okay, so that is one good thing about having phone conversations, especially when emotions are involved. You really want to listen to tone. You want to listen to pauses in conversation. So for example, if I were to say to James, if you get me an offer and I said, hey, James, help me to understand why your buyers came in $50,000 below list price. Does that tone and like the rate of speech kind of give you the idea that what is you doing? If that makes sense. So you do want to listen to the nonverbal cues. And then once you present an offer, what I like to do in the body of that email, and I think Michael, that's what we're waiting for Michael on, is I always want to say, thank you so much. Please let me know if you have any questions from us, and please confirm receipt. I at least want to make sure that they received it, and then I'm going to hush. I'm not going to do anything else until closer to the expiration time. If I haven't heard and we only have an hour or two left, then I might check in, but just sit tight. It's going to be okay. And bump Lanisha.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome.
Sorry, guys. My computer was dying. Okay. So yeah, nonverbal cues, super important. That's what you were covering, Katie, right? Your nonverbal cues.
Yes, ma'am.
You guys want to definitely pay attention to that. Let me ask a question really quick, just to kind of gauge the audience. Most individuals here, you guys new agents? Everyone?
Yes, I think mostly.
Okay. Less than anybody over than a year has been an agent over than a year? No? Okay. Bridget, are you speaking? I can't hear you.
I was just saying I was, and I think when we first started Ignite, a lot of people was just saying some of us just passed our tests. Some of us are very new agents. Ignite was the first thing we did.
Okay, great. Good to know. Good to know. I've been licensed since 2007. So if you guys have any questions about anything, you know, once I'm covering these different areas, just chime in. Just let me know if you want me to kind of go deeper into something. But okay, so definitely your nonverbal cues, super important, super important. Watch your first time home buyers. Just watch your buyers, because a lot of times they're really nervous, you know, in many cases, and plus they don't really understand the process. Another question, are you guys mostly working with buyers or anyone working with sellers? Mostly buyers? Anybody? Do anyone have any clients currently that you're, excuse me, helping?
Yes, I'm working with a seller.
Seller? Okay. Is this your first seller?
It is.
Awesome. Congratulations.
You.
I'm working with a buyer.
Okay. Great. Great. So next thing is keep quiet once you present the offer. Sometimes letting the other person do most of the talking is the most powerful negotiation technique because of what they reveal. Okay. And we talked about that, about with the communication. You just let them speak, and they'll usually give you what you need to better understand their position. Okay. Listen carefully to what is important to the other party. Okay. Write down what they say to demonstrate that you are taking them seriously, and then move on. Okay. Listen, stay calm and relaxed. Either party may have a strong emotional reaction to the price or other terms of the offer. Be a calming influence until they are able to see the situation rationally again. Remember, you are there as the representative for your client. Keep your emotions out of it. Very, very important to keep your emotions out of it. Okay. Focus on, well, let me ask you this. Have you guys had anyone had a situation where things just kind of got a little emotional? An agent that you were working with, a co-op agent, got emotional in the situation? As if it's them, you know, as the buyer, as the other person in the transaction. Have you guys experienced that?
No.
Okay. Well, sometimes just to let you know, of course, when it comes to negotiating, you definitely want to keep your emotions out of it, like we mentioned before. But sometimes you may co-op with an agent that's getting a little too vested in the situation, you know, instead of keep being that neutral party that's just the means of communicating with you. So in that situation, just make sure you guys stay calm, relax, maybe just give them a little reminder. You know, we're here to help our clients, and you know, and that you guys are a means to doing that, and you guys have to keep your feelings out of it. Focus on your customers' needs. Isolate the objections of both sides and offer solutions that will satisfy the other party while still meeting your client's core needs. Give your offer the best chance. So you have to be confident and committed to your offer as you present it. Avoid indicating to the other side if you believe it is a less than great offer for them. That's very important. And I know a lot of times newer agents may not feel as confident, but if you can feel that way, but if you don't present it, no one will ever know you're a new agent. Okay. So always try to keep that in mind. Most folks do not know that you're a new agent. They may not be paying attention to your license number. You know, they're not looking you up. So as long as you go in confidently, that's key. Okay. So we're going to talk about nonverbal cues. We're just going to write down nonverbal cues, body language, voice, tone of voice, or rate of speech. That's possible to suggest the negotiation is going in a positive or negative manner. So how about we're just going to, you guys can take a few minutes, just maybe 3 minutes, and jot down face-to-face positive cues and face-to-face negative cues. Okay. And then the same for on the phone, positive and negative. So just take a few minutes just to maybe write down some, and then we'll talk about it. Okay. Okay, who wants to share? Face-to-face positive cues.
One of the things I put down was eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I put as a negative when you don't have that eye contact.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. That's a good one. Rochelle, do you have something to share?
Oh, that was me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Relax.
I would say
posture.
smile.
Smile. Awesome.
Relaxed posture.
Relaxed posture. Good. Posture.
How they,
Definitely a
how
big.
they, go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say, I put down how they greet you, like with a handshake or smile, like we mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe nod when they're talking to acknowledge that you're listening. And
That's good. That's good. Okay. Good. And what about on the phone? What are some things that are positive?
letting them speak, not talking over them.
Mm-hmm.
When you respond, the tone of your voice kind of have an open, welcoming.
Mm-hmm. Tone is huge, definitely.
And also restating what they're saying or what you understood they said to confirm your understanding.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Some other things is like being upbeat, being energetic. Some negative things. What about some negative things over the phone that you may experience? I know tone, that can be a huge thing. Anything else?
Maybe if they're very quick with their responses and don't elaborate.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
Unattentive.
Say that again.
Unattentive.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you hear a sigh or that they're distracted.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Good. Good. Those are some great ones. Okay, so now we're going to discuss just identifying tactics and use counter tactics. So in negotiating, your clients and or agents, hold on, I'm sorry, let me see. Okay, so the following are three of the most common tactics used in negotiations and counter tactics. So one tactic is nibbling. So once your client has agreed upon one major concession, the other party will start nibbling, okay, for additional smaller concessions. So to counter this, to stop the nibbling from happening, you may want to nibble back, basically. Ask for a concession in return before agreeing to any further concessions, okay? Hot potato.
Lanisha, can I
Yes.
interrupt? Can you
Yes.
give us an example of what nibbling, how would that work? Because I don't quite understand.
So nibbling so when I'm just going to read the other party will start nibbling for additional smaller concessions. So just basically going back and forth with negotiate. Let's just say we're negotiating repairs. Just say we're negotiating repairs. Just asking for, they may send you a list of things, right? And the seller may say, okay, you sent the list of 5 things, so I'll do, XYZ, these 3 items. But then they come back and just maybe try to throw in something else. It might even may not have been something initial that was on there, but just asking for little things, just bit by bit. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, that was helpful. Thank you.
Okay. So hot potato, the other party tries to pass a problem on to you. For example, the co-op agent tries to pass all closing costs to your client because their client can't afford it. Okay. So to counter it is throw it back. Test the validity. Find out if the problem is really real. Has the party with the problem really exhausted every possible solution? So sometimes you'll see, excuse me, let's just assume it's not competitive situation, even though sometimes you have agents that's not really abreast to, that may not be familiar with multiple offer negotiating. So let's assume it's not multiple offer competitive situation. A lot of times, first time buyers or people would want to ask the seller to pay all their closing costs, right? Even though they can pay for it themselves. Some folks just really want to feel like they're getting something, you know, as part of negotiating, when they really don't need it, you know. So you just kind of throw it back in. And I've experienced this many times. I represent mostly sellers, and if I receive an offer and the buyer's ask for $7,000 in closing costs, I'm going to have a conversation with that buyer's agent just to kind of get an understanding. And I'll just ask the question, okay, do they really need $7,000 in closing costs? Are they strapped for cash? I'll just try to, let's just probe and try to get them to talk. And a lot of times they'll say, well, you know, some agents actually will say, well, they just wanted to see if the seller would give it to them. You know, some people will actually say that. Sometimes they may say, well, we'd probably be fine if they can just give us $2,000 or just give us something, or just let us know what the seller says. That means they're just really just trying to just see what they can get, you know? So just throw it back. Good guy, bad guy. So this tactic is when you have two people working together, for example, a husband and wife, they'll take the opposing roles. So one appears to be friendly and considerate while the other behaves in a difficult or aggressive manner. Think of a typical car salesperson, the good guy, who says his manager, which is the bad guy, won't let him reduce the price any further. Okay. So if you guys had that situation, anybody want to kind of chime in of a way that you think that you can counter that? Good guy, bad guy scenario? Anybody?
Convince the good guy. And once you convince the good guy gonna eventually convince the bad guy.
Uh-huh. Good. And I tell you guys this, my husband, that's what he uses. He always tells me, oh, just tell him it's me. Just tell him it's me. Just blame it on me. He uses that all the time. So that was good. That was good. So you can call them on their game, right? You can call them on their game. You can even say, come on, you're not going to play good guy, bad guy with me, are you? Right? You can even just put it out there. If it continues, then attribute what the bad guy says to the good guy, since they're a tag team, right? So, which is what you said, right? And that usually will diffuse that situation. That's good. That makes me laugh because we do that all the time. We really do. That's like my husband's go-to.
I actually had that situation with a couple of my clients. So
Really?
the wife she was on edge and she was tight, but the husband, I seen he was a little loose. So I played towards him a lot more, and then he eventually ended up bringing her around.
Mm-hmm.
He did it for me.
Exactly. Good. And plus also when you sense that one party really wants it, you can play off that also, you know.
And I sensed it was him.
Mm-hmm. So good. Okay, so the third is position, right? Well, let me ask you a question. Do you guys have any questions so far before we go to the next?
Lanisha, I do have a question.
Okay.
When you were talking about the hot potato and closing costs, it made me think about closing costs. So how is that calculated? What is the average closing cost for the buyer? I heard you say you had one where you used an example of $7,000, but how is that? Who comes up with that number? What is What is that?
Okay, so this is what you guys want to do. Well, this is what I recommend. This is what I do. When I have a buyer and I have them pre-approved, I always ask my lender to send over an itemized worksheet. You guys know what an itemized worksheet is? Has anybody seen one of those from the lender? Okay, so this is really, really helpful, especially when you're dealing with a client that is really big on the numbers, right? They want to know how everything is going to. Okay, so this itemized worksheet is from the lender and it breaks down all of the costs that they'll be, it's an estimate. It'll break down all of the costs of what it's going to take for this buyer to purchase this home at the estimated price, right? So if they're pre-approved for 250,000, they'll create an itemized worksheet based on purchasing a property with whatever loan type it is. So I'll have my lender sometimes complete multiple itemized worksheets so my buyer can see the comparison between an FHA loan versus going with a conventional loan, right? But it breaks down everything. It gives the price, of course, if it's FHA, you have 3.5% down, so it shows the loan amount. And it breaks down the estimated taxes, all the fees associated with closing. So it'll give you a bucket of the estimated closing costs that they're going to be, they can anticipate paying. So that itemized worksheet is really important. If you haven't seen one of those, you probably can Google one. You could probably Google one. If you want me to send you one, you can email me and I'll forward you an example of one of my clients' estimated itemized worksheet. But the lender sends you that. The lender gives you that number of how much your buyer can expect to pay in closing costs. Okay. And of course you'll want to know that up front, right? Just to kind of, piggyback off of that, in my consultation, I have a double degree. I have a degree in finance and real estate. So I'm very familiar with the lending process, and I make sure I stay that, very familiar with the lending process, because I'll pretty much pre-screen my clients because I know what the lender is looking for. I know what the qualifications are more than likely are, just so I'll know if this client is in a position. And I'll even in the consultation get into a conversation with them. I have a financial component of my buyer's consultation because I want to make sure that they're ready to go. They're in a position, and so I can more than likely, so I can better consult them. So I'll even ask them a question. I'll ask what their credit score is, what they think it is. If they don't know, I'll say, hey, do you have a credit card? Pull up the app. Usually they give you the credit score for free. At least that'll give you an idea. It gives me an idea. I'll even ask them to how much money do you have? Do you have money saved up? Are you prepared for your down payment? Your closing costs, that good stuff. And I'll even ask the question. So how much do you have saved? So those are great conversations for the beginning. And that goes along with getting that itemized worksheet in the beginning. Okay. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so position is moving both parties closer to each other until you have a final agreement. Okay. Acknowledge and affirm the common ground. So where the buyer and the seller are in agreement and are at the same position. Then identify which positions may be easily adjusted and which are set in stone. Okay. Ask what and how questions to better understand the other party's values and why certain things are important to them. For example, say you represent the seller who wants to close in 30 days. If a buyer wants to close within 60 days, ask your client, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you are requesting a 30-day closing. What is important about closing in 30 days? Okay. If your client becomes defensive, you will explain, well, my goal is to let the buyer know why this point is important to you. So understanding what is important to the other party allows you to prioritize and address their issues in order of importance, right? So again, having that open communication, asking questions, because it gives you more of an understanding to better represent your client, right? Because sometimes people may say, I want to close in 30 days, but they, in this, to stick to this example, they may say, I want to close in 30 days only because they heard that, oh, we typically close in 30 days. Or my friend that just bought a house last week closed in 30 days. They may be flexible. They may actually have, maybe okay with closing in 2 months, or whatnot. But it's typical in this market to close within 30 days or less. You guys following me? Okay. So positioning is a process and sometimes require you to come back to negotiating table more than once. Sometimes several counter offers will be necessary to negotiate an acceptance. Okay. Has anyone actually taken a buyer through the process and actually gone through making an offer and counter offering? Anyone? All right. So I know I heard, oh, you have? I can't see your name. How did that work out? You're muted. Press the unmute button.
Gotcha. Okay. Basically it was just, going back and forth with the contracts and stuff, and the seller was wanting 3 extra days to move out after closing, and when it was sent, to me, I noticed that they only had $50 per day if they went past that, and that was unacceptable to me. I knew that needed to be higher to give them more incentive to get out of the house in time. So we just went back and negotiated, and luckily it was something they just easily fixed.
Awesome. Good. Well, yeah, sometimes it's simple, to get everyone in position. Sometimes you have to, work through it and have several counter offers going back and forth. And again, I know Katie mentioned about having a counter offer form. And we're going to take a break after we finish this page, just so you know. You have that counter offer form. I'm old school. I would say I'm old school because I like to actually mark my changes off on the contract because I want to see what was changed. That's just me personally. But again, you do have that counter offer form that you can put the change on, should you like to use that. I just don't like using it when you have to use it 3-4 times. Now we have all these different pages of changes. So I like to see it on the contract. But again, so lastly, know when to walk away. Sometimes the other side may refuse to give your client the win they need despite your efforts. Knowing when and how to walk away can not only save your client from a win-lose deal, but it can sometimes jolt an unreasonable party into a concession for fear of losing the deal. The key is to walk away without burning bridges. Okay. You guys have any questions so far before we take a break?
So I just wanted to share that this happened to me basically today.
Okay.
We put in an offer and it's super overpriced. It's an investment property. So house that needs to be completely rehabbed in a vacant lot. And the area may boom, like potentially, but definitely not right now for what they're asking. So we put in an offer and they countered and said they're only going to take a full price offer. So then I went back and countered with something that was also reasonable and they declined. But, I just left it as, thanks for the timely response and, let me know if you are open to other offers less than full price. And that's it.
Mm-hmm. So that's where you guys currently are?
That's where we are. And, it's just like, thanks. And everything was just very cordial. They took a hard line, but they've also had this, it just doesn't make sense. They bought it for so little money. It's like they're just trying to be super greedy. So.
Yeah, and they're not moving.
And they're not moving. But the thing is, as an investor, Like the price they want, an investor won't make any money. So it's what's the point? And that's the reason it's been on the market for so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. But that happens. Some people they don't have to sell and they just want to see what they can get.
Right.
So that's good. You just, like I said, keep everything professionally and maybe they'll come back to you, right? They may come
Right.
back. They may come back to you.
Even though I wanted to, just say, have you looked at comps? Like, did you pull this number out of the air? But I didn't.
Delana, you know how I like to politely be like, what are you thinking about this? Is I use the expression, help me understand. So that way I'm like coming from curiosity and I'm like, hey, let me ask you, my buyers are really questioning the price here. Help me to understand how you came up with that list price.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. And there was no rhyme or reason.
Sure. And that's kind of what I expected that they said to you, but that's always a really good way of, hey, I'm going to put it back on you. You own up to where this number came from. They can't. That's when I may go ahead and send over an offer, but I may add some comps in there as an attachment to the offer as well. That's like, this is how we justified this offer price.
Right.
Tough situation. Sorry, girl.
Yeah. That's good.
Okay. Lanisha, would you mind unsharing your screen so I can take attendance real quick, please? Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so everyone looking at the camera, appreciate you. There's picture 1 and then picture 2. Awesome. We're gonna break for 15 minutes. So if we could come back at 2:50, that would be fabulous. Thanks, y'all.
Great.
All right, if y'all could please come back to your computers, turn your cameras on. That's my bad for being 2 minutes late. Sorry, couldn't get someone off the phone. I hope we're all well rested, caffeinated from our break. Bala, where are you? I want you to have credit. Kelby.
Here I go.
There. Kelby, Olga, help me help you. Oh, there he is.
I'm here.
Okay, great. Olga. Oh, there she is. Okay, great. I just want everyone to get credit. Okay, cool. Perfect. Smiles. Oh, we're all so cute. Good for y'all. Second picture. Hooray. Okay, thanks, y'all. Lanisha, take it away.
Okie dokie. Hope you guys had a great break. Got a little breather. Okay, so we are now at, let me pull my screen back up here. I'm sorry. Where did it go? Hold on 1 second, y'all. Can you guys see the presentation?
Not yet.
Okay. Because I have to press the share button.
Yeah, when you press the share button, then you'll double click on whatever thing has your PDF.
I don't even see the share button anymore, Katie. Hold on, I got it. Can you guys see it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You guys see the PDF here?
Yep.
Positioning? Okay, great. All right, so we are going to do an exercise. Just, you guys can't really partner up, so we'll just maybe go back and forth, have a couple folks just act out being a buyer's agent and a listing agent. So I'm going to read the scenario, and then we're just going to just do a little role play and have some and work on positioning, and then we'll just talk about it. Okay, so I'm going to, if you guys can just, I'll just go ahead and read it to you. Here's the scenario. Okay, this is the scenario that we're dealing with. There's a property. The property has 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, and is listed for $350,000 in a well-established neighborhood. The house requires carpeting throughout the first floor, and it needs a new garage door opener. 3 offers have been made, but all were made below asking price. Okay. All right. So then we have the buyer's agent and listing agent. The buyer's agent role, your buyers are making an offer for $340,000 for the house. Okay. They have been pre-approved. The buyers would like to close in the shortest amount of time possible since they are moving from out of state and needs a home for their family. Since they are leaving their appliances in their current home, the buyers would like to also like for the appliance to be included. Okay. Listing agent. This is the listing agent's role. Your sellers have raised their family in the house that you are now selling and have many friends and family in the area. Since their children are now grown, they no longer need the amount of space their current home provides and have purchased a new home in Florida. They would like to give all the appliances to their daughter who has just gone through a divorce. They will not be moving until they have sold their current house. And although they would like to get to Florida as soon as possible, they are ready to stand their ground regarding the price. Okay. So this is their house they're selling for $350,000. That's what it's listed for. 4 bedrooms, 3.5 bath in a well-established neighborhood. Needs new carpeting, new garage door opener. 3 offers have come in, but they're all below asking. Okay, so I want to get 2 people that wants to, volunteer to just kind of go back and forth and work it in positioning. Who would like to be the buyer's agent in this scenario? Anyone wants to kind of? Are you raising your hand, Bridget?
Not really.
No. It's gonna be fine. Do you want to
It's
do
gonna
it?
be fun. Okay.
Would you prefer me? Okay. Okay. So if you're not comfortable, just let me know and I can be the buyer's agent. Just let me know. Okay. We also need a listing agent.
I'll be the listing agent.
Okay, James. So Bridget, you good for it?
I'll give it a shot. I mean,
Yeah.
James
Let's
have
it all
a lot
together.
more experience than I do.
I ain't got no more experience than you. You got more than me. Let's go. We're gonna mess it together. Let's go.
And I'll be right here holding your hands, okay?
Okay.
So, so Bridget's the listing agent. James, Bridget, you're the buyer's agent. Okay. And James, you're the listing agent. You guys got your position, right? And what your buyer needs, and then James, what your seller needs, right? And it's right on the screen too. It's right here in front of you. All right. So you guys just have a little chat about that and try to position to bring you guys close to an agreement. That's what you're working on, coming to an agreement.
And we in the market that we in today with the low offer.
well, let's, from this situation, it sounds like, let's just assume it's not as aggressive it is today, right? Because they're coming in low. You know what I mean?
That's real low. Like this day, the day they'll be like, nope, I ain't gonna
Right. I was gonna say if I was the buyer's agent, I would first tell them that offering $10,000 below the listing price, we might not have a good chance. So
okay.
My clients are offering $340,000 for the house. They're pre-approved. They want to close in the shortest time possible. They're moving out of state. And they want appliances.
Yes.
Okay, they want appliances. Okay, I understand. But my clients, they're pretty, they're pretty set on 350,000. And plus they were planning on keeping the appliances for themselves. And I can understand your clients want to with their offer for 340, but considering the neighborhood and considering the comps and considering that my clients, I'm pretty much sold on the 350. Is there any way your clients could come up with the other remainder, like the other 10,000?
I would say maybe we can, maybe I can ask my client if they are willing to offer a little bit more on the price. And would you mind asking your sellers if we offer more on the price, would they be open to leaving appliances?
Oh yeah, I will gladly tell you that I will ask them, but I'll be telling you, I'll be asking them for the 4th time. We have 3 other offers similar to yours that we're working with. And right now, all you guys are swimming in the same pool. So we're trying to see who's gonna be that breakaway offer to make them move and make them, make them say, hey, let's go. So I didn't ask, but like I say, it'll be the 4th time and they haven't budged 3 times. 3 strikes you out. So I could just imagine I'm working on another battle. So if you could see what you could do on your end, please.
Well, James, I would tell you that we may be in the strongest position of buying. I'll be willing to close quicker. Maybe they can move quicker and go to Florida. But if you could just ask and get back with me and let me know, and then maybe we can work from there.
Okay, as of now, I will take your offer and put it in as a backup offer, and I will ask. And if you have any more questions, feel free to call me at any time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Good job. Okay. So that was good. So the goal is to try to come to an agreement, right? And of course, you guys are going to also be having this same conversation where you're going to be having another conversation with your clients too, right? You're going to be going through with your clients. Now, in this situation, the house may not be worth 350, right? So we may be dealing with a seller that maybe has little unrealistic expectations, right? especially if they've gotten 3 offers that's coming in around the same price, so more than likely that home may be worth about 340, right? So then that will be you, James, you will be having to have this conversation with trying to get your sellers in position to try to bring them closer to us coming to an agreement with a buyer. Would anyone like to chime in and maybe kind of throw out some points of how some things they would share with their seller in this situation?
Lanisha, would it have been okay for Bridget to ask James what the other offers were? Would it have been okay for her to ask that?
Yeah, so I always ask the question. They're not necessarily going to tell you, right? But some agents will tell you, right? Some agents will give you. A lot of people assume that, I mean, they're not going to say anything, or they're not going to tell you what the other offer came in for, but some people actually will do that. Yes, I would always recommend asking the question. Just go right at it. Just say, hey, so, just ask the question. See what you can get out of them. Yeah.
Lanisha, would it be like a good idea as a buyer's agent to say, okay, I will talk to my clients and see if they can maybe add more money, but would you be willing to replace the carpet and get the garage door opener so that or give them a credit so that the buyer does not have to provide for that if you're going to stick to that price or meet us halfway?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can definitely do that. So it is good to have and build good rapport between the agents, right? And like I said, you can feel each other out, right? But ultimately, you want everything to be in writing, right? You want to just ask for it, put it in the contract, and ask for it, right? So, but yeah, that's always. I mean, it's totally fine for you guys for you to do that, right? Just don't want to stay too bogged down into the agents negotiating versus putting in writing. You know what I mean? Having negotiations in writing, right? Because they can always counter back, and that's going to open up conversation with the agents too. Excuse me. Anybody else want to chime in? And well, yeah, tell me, like I said, tell me what would you guys maybe go back with to the seller and how that conversation may go. What kind of things you think you want to say?
I got a question, like coming from the seller side. Like when you're dealing with a client who don't want to budge on the price, but like you say, their home may not be worth $350.
Mm-hmm.
How would you how would you deal with your client as a seller?
Okay, so in that situation, so this is what I would wonder first. How did the conversation go initially with the seller, as far as in the consultation? Okay, were the right expectations set up front? Okay, so a lot of times that didn't happen, right? Sometimes you'll have maybe the seller steering the agent, right? Not saying that shouldn't necessarily happen, because it's ultimately, I mean, it's their property, right? We're their fiduciary, but we also want to also keep a sense of control and to keep that seller thinking realistically, right? So sometimes you have to let them self-discover, right? Some people maybe just insistent upon, I want 350. And then you just ask probing questions like Katie said earlier. So help me understand. You know what I mean? Help me understand what just try to get an idea of why are they adamant about 350,000, right? And they'll chime in. Well, I really want to. I want to walk over 10,000. I want a net 50, right? And you just have to present the data, right? It's always good to go in armed in your listing consultations with a market analysis. And you can provide a suggested list price range. I like to give a range. I don't like to give a set price, right? I like to give a range. Now once we get closer to solidifying that price, I may say, let's go for 349.9. And if they say they want to list for 352, right? That's when I may give an exact price, but give a range. So that's the first thing that I would think, was it a realistic conversation up front? Now, if we did have that conversation and the seller, and I'm trying to get them to list more towards the 340 and they want 350, I'm going to try to have I'm going to try to negotiate in that situation that we will revisit that, right? If we're not getting any movement, we're not getting any traction, I'll try to revisit, set the expectation up front that to know that I'll know that they're going to work with me at that point if I come back to them, you know what I mean? Or if we're getting offers in at 340, right? So yeah, that's how. So if we're in that situation and we got 3 offers, we've gotten 3, and I'm just going to have to revisit that and just talk, and refer back to what we discussed before. And then I always just show the data. I always present information. I let them know also. Okay, so in this situation, we've received 3 offers and they've all come in at 340,000. Okay. The buyers determine what a house is worth. The market establishes the price. The market establishes what a home is worth, right? Not a seller, not me. It's what the market is willing to bear. So, and I'll let them know, like, the market is saying this house, I'll pay 340,000 for this house. As of now, we don't have anyone that's willing to pay 350. They're saying 340, right? That's the market speaking to us, right? So that's the kind of conversation I have. Those are some of the things that I'll mention to them. It depends on on the seller and how adamant they are, of how deep I have to go into that conversation. I may have to start talking about the carpet, and I may have to start talking about how much that costs for a buyer to replace that. And I may also have to talk about the roof and how much that's going to cost. And I may have to also talk about the comps that sold. They were in great condition. They were fully upgraded. The carpets, there was no flooring issues, none of that, right? They came with the appliances, so those are some things that answer your question.
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was gonna say too, when we had our class on, I think it was Thursday. The guy Michael say sometimes you have to remind them of how much money they're losing by holding on to that house month after month after month.
Yes.
So James, you could have went back and told your seller, look, you losing money every month by holding on to the house, I guess. Paying another mortgage, you got to continue to pay these bills and so forth and so on. So he said that's something that he tell his sellers, you are getting some activity. So let's just look at what we have, because in the long run, you keep holding on to the house, you could lose money.
Definitely. And depending on how long that house is on the market, that's your 10,000 right there. It depends on what the price, how long it's on the market or whatnot. Okay, so what would the conversation look like when, as the buyer's agent, going back to just chat with the buyer? Anybody want to share some things they may discuss?
I would go to the buyer and let them know the seller seems like they hold the price as being important, but that's not the only thing we can negotiate on. The terms are more important. So I found out that they already have a house that they bought in Florida. Let's see if we can push up the closing date. Let's see if we can do a shorter due diligence, maybe get the appraisal days down, things like that, to get them better terms, but keep our price the same. Or we can just increase price and then change the terms that'll better fit us, like keeping the appliances, things like that.
Good. Anybody else?
So I think that in this instance, since there were multiple offers, but it was just in that range, so you don't know exactly where they were, I would maybe increase my offer price, but to Justin's point, just add those other, modify the other terms. So then maybe it goes to 350 with a slight seller's assist, maybe 2,000 or 3,000, and then you include the appliances as well, so that once you net, you're coming down to maybe like 345, 343. However, the sellers are seeing that 350, which is the number they want to see. Because oftentimes people look at gross, not net.
Yeah, definitely from the buyer's side, right? Anybody else want to chime in anything from the buyer side?
So from the buyers, this is Bala. From the buyer side, you can come up with a comp to understand where the price point is, and then put dollar numbers for all the appliances, and come up with an understanding that if you have to pay $350, if you don't get the appliances, this is what you would lose, like $3,000 or so. And if instead, if they replace the carpet throughout, then that helps like 3,000, 4,000. We can come up with a balancing strategy between what the seller is telling and what the buyer is willing to agree.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yep. Monetizing everything. Mm-hmm. One thing I want to add is in this situation, prior to this occurring, another thing that I would talk about up front, and you'll see that I keep referring to up front because I believe situations like this happen more so often when the conversation isn't better had up front with a seller, right? Because if a seller was in this situation, their home was in the condition that this home is in, where the carpet needs to be replaced, you would try to get that stuff done up front, or at least set the expectation that more than likely somebody's going to consider this when they're presenting an offer to you, right? So that was good. So yeah, just go back and forth until we can come to a compromise. But like I forget, who was that earlier? This Delana? I believe it was Delana. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
You did.
Delana. Yeah, how they wasn't really budging, they wasn't willing to move. So sometimes that happens, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, you guys, we're gonna go to we're gonna do another scenario. Oh, did I just jump screens? I'm sorry. I pressed my arrow. We're going to do another scenario. Page 22. Okay. All righty. So here's the scenario. So buyer agent, your client has found the house they love and it's in the neighborhood they want. It is at the top of their price range and does need some work, updating the kitchen and master bathroom. Your client makes an offer on the property and the seller agent says, I must warn you that we've gotten several offers and your offer is pretty low. Okay. Listing agent scenario. Your seller needs to move within 45 days due to a job transfer. You feel that you have priced the house competitively. You are aware the house needs updating, but the sellers don't see the need because the house was just fine for them. There have been multiple offers where the other offers are still standing, but the timing may not work for the seller. Okay. And the latest offer is lower than the asking price. You have to let your buyer's agent know, I must warn you that we have gotten several offers and your offer is pretty low. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing. And who wants to be the buyer's agent? Can I get someone to volunteer to be a buyer's agent? To have that conversation? Listing agent? No one wants to volunteer?
I'll be the buyer's agent.
Okay.
I was gonna say, if nobody else does it, I'll try the listing agent this time.
Okay. Awesome. Let's do it. So buyer's agent is reaching out to the listing agent.
So who's the listing agent?
Bridget.
Okay. So hi, Bridget. This is Delana of Keller Williams Peachtree Road. How are you?
I'm doing well, Delana. I hope you are as well.
I am. It was a lovely weekend, and this week is turning out the same way. But I have wonderful news for you.
Okay.
my buyer is interested in the home that you have listed at 123 Cascade Road. Now, do you have any offers on it currently?
I do have multiple offers, but we have not accepted an offer yet.
Okay. And what's most important to your client?
The most important thing for my client is quick closing. They want to be able to sell as soon as possible.
Okay. So just to let you know a little, excuse me, a little about my client, she is, she's a single parent. This home is right by Cascade Springs Nature Preserve, and it's perfect. It's near her parents' home, the home that she grew up in, and her father just recently passed from COVID. So she's moving back to the area to help take care of her mother so that her mother doesn't have to be displaced in a time such as this. And your home is the home you have is really wonderful. Its price, it is a little high compared to some of the comps that we've seen based upon the work that needs to be done there, updating the kitchen, the master bath, and so forth. But I'm sure you're aware of that when you thought about pricing the home, correct?
That is correct. It is priced with all those things in mind. But like I said, the most important thing is that they just want to sell as quick as possible.
Okay, perfect. And then I know that you responded via email to our offer saying that our offer is fairly low. And keeping that in mind and knowing that the timeline is most important for you, my client does have it's a qualified approval. So she's already gone through all of the underwriting and would be able to close in less than 30 days. Our broker is actually saying that they could close within 14 to 18 days. So would that change, the mind of your seller, or would that, really help your seller accept our offer?
Well, Delana, I would say that that is great information. I'm glad you called and you told me that, and I will share that with them while we are going over offers, because that is one of the things that is most important to them. So I'm glad you gave me a call, and I'm glad you let me know.
Okay, and of course, I know you can't speak for your sellers, they have to make the final decision, but just, please keep us in mind, there's a whole situation that we're trying to deal with. I just want you to know that my buyer is a person and not just a number.
Right, I understand. I understand, and I'll let my clients know that, and we'll take all of that into consideration.
Perfect.
And so I will let them know, Delana, and I will let you know what they decide.
Okay. And I thank you for that. And just one last thing. If for any reason your buyers, start thinking about an offer other than ours, I just ask that you get in contact with us so that we have the option of countering or accepting a counter offer.
No problem, of course. If what you offered isn't working or they don't want to accept, I will give you guys the opportunity to counter offer.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Bridget, and I look forward to closing this deal with you.
Okay, thank you, Delana. It was nice talking with you.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. That was good conversation. That was good rapport that you guys were building, you ladies are building. So yay. You guys did really good. You did really good. Conversation flowed very well. You guys were trying to, pull information. Delana, you were pulling information out of the listing agent. You're trying to putting your buyer in a position that this is a real person, which is really important. This is a multiple offer situation, right? It's really important to as a buyer's agent to reach out to the listing agent to have that conversation and try to ask as many probing questions, like I mentioned before, as you can. You asked, I believe you did ask her if she had multiple offers, which was great. So, but good job, you guys. Y'all really did a good job there. Did you both have any questions, or any concerns, or did you feel comfortable with having that conversation?
I did. I think maybe it was, I think for now, and especially me being new to the business, I feel like it was a basic conversation. I don't know how comfortable I would have been if other things would have transpired, but I would say from that initial conversation, I was pretty comfortable, but I feel like it was kind of basic.
Okay. Good. Delana, how did you feel about that conversation?
So I felt comfortable. I don't know how realistic it is though. But
yeah,
it was a comfortable conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Were you gonna say something else?
Yeah, I was gonna say I agree how realistic it is. I mean, like we have been I guess we know that we're role playing and we have been in the same class, I guess, together for almost a month now. We're looking at one another, but you know how different it would have been if we would have called you as an agent who's been in the business since 2007. You know, you could have just maybe cut our heads off. You know, I don't know.
Some agents will keep it very short with you.
Right.
Some agents may not answer the phone for you to even have a conversation or allow you to pick their brain to find out, to get any additional information, right? See, the most important thing, let's talk about from the buyer's agent perspective first, okay? So as a buyer's agent reaching out to a listing agent, my main objective would be to find out what's the seller's motivation. Okay. I want to reach out. I want to know like what's important to this seller, right? Especially if I know that there's multiple offers, which I would have asked that question too, right? So we know it's multiple offers. We need to know what's important to this seller that's going to make our offer stand out among the others, right? I would say for the most part, a lot of times most agents will tell you that. Most agents will tell you, and they may keep it short. Some may have a nice conversation and just, talk to you, for a few minutes. But some may just say, honestly, some really don't know, right? And they'll just give a default answer. I mean, price, net, their bottom line. That's what's important, right? And if an agent tells me that I'm going to continue to try to probe or just try to get them to kind of give me more, I know most people want to make money, you know what I mean? They're concerned about their net, but what else, right? What else about this situation? Like, are they, so I'll start asking term related questions. Do they need to close quickly? Is that important to them? So I just start asking different things just to try to pull out more information. And sometimes you can get it. I mean, I would say most of the time you can get someone to have a nice back and forth dialogue with you. But again, sometimes it stays right there and they're just like, I mean, that's it. And some agents may just say, hey, just send your best offer. Just send it over and we'll talk about it, So yeah, as a buyer's agent, that's one of the big things that you definitely want to keep in mind and you want to focus on. Anybody want to chime in anything from the buyer's agent perspective?
I do.
What's that?
Anisha, I think that Delana did an excellent job of making she did an excellent job of building rapport, but also making sure that that seller's agent knew that she was working for that client and that client was more than just a number to her, that client was a person. But where she really hit a home run, just this is for Rochelle, is that when she before she ended her conversation, she said to that seller's agent that before you make a decision, please, if you would just give me the opportunity to at least, to maybe win that offer by at least giving me an opportunity to review what your best offer is before you make a decision. And I made a note of that because I'm going to do that. Yeah. Definitely. They role played. It was excellent. Even though it wasn't real, I understand that. But the things that the two of them did and the report that they built, and I just think it was great. But who am I? I'm a novice at this.
No,
Okay?
no. That's great. That's great. Yeah, I like how I did like that too, how you ended the conversation, requesting that she circle back. See, one of the biggest things with dealing with a multiple offer situation is professionalism. Some listing agents will consider that. They'll consider how easy is it going to be for me to work with this agent. They'll communicate that to their seller. That may be part of the conversation. So you have the contract, you have the terms in the contract and all that, but you also have the other party, right? That's going to help this process move along smoothly and seamlessly. So you always want to present yourself as a professional, right? Keller Williams has a great reputation, right? So most people know that when it's a Keller Williams agent on the other side of the transaction, that you're going to be working with someone that's acting in a professional manner, right? Because and you'll see once you're out there doing more of these deals, that you'll see where it's not always that case, right? It's not always that case. You want someone, so you always want to present yourself as that professional that's going to be there, that's going to be a part of the process, not just bringing a client and just putting your hands up and you're nowhere in sight until the closing table, right? So that's a big thing. So also, one more thing I want to point out from the buyer's agent perspective, you also want to make sure you stay in communication with that agent, because they may forget to reach back out to you. So I just do want to point that out. They may, especially in a multiple offer situation, it's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of agents that they have to communicate back with. So you just want to just kind of maybe keep checking in and whatnot. The biggest thing with dealing with submitting an offer over, especially when there's multiple offers, is knowing what the timelines are looking like. When do you expect to hear back? Is the seller going to be calling for highest and best offer, right? Which we always want our clients to put their best foot forward, but many cases, they can take another step, right? They can. And that goes back to you having a conversation with your buyer to say, hey, yeah, if this house, if the seller accepts, we didn't have a price, did we? So if the buyer, go back to the last scenario, the buyer offered 340. If this house sold for 350, will you be upset that you lost it? Okay, and you just keep trying to pull out what price would that buyer be upset if they lost this house over? Because a lot of times their first offer is not their best, so that's another thing I want to point out. Now let's go to the listing agent side. Anybody have anything they want to add when it comes to the listing side?
You know what? Before we go there, I just thought about something that I wanted to share.
Okay.
When someone was asking, was it okay to ask more questions, and then you said, it is okay to ask. Sometimes, they'll tell you, and sometimes they won't, because sometimes I guess they are just more loyal. I guess depending on what type of agent you are, or maybe the situation. But I remember a few years ago when we were looking to buy a house, the agent who represented us, we had been looking for a long time, and this one area we were in, the one neighborhood, we really, really liked the neighborhood. And we saw maybe like 2 houses in this neighborhood. But she said, you know what? She said, it's another house in this neighborhood. She said, it's under contract. She said, but it's under contract with a contingency. She says, so while it is under contract, it does have a contingency. She said, which to me, that always tells me it's still a possibility maybe to talk to that agent about the house. She said, so since it's right up the street, let's go look at it. So we went to go look at the house, and the house was a gorgeous house. What was so funny was it seemed like everything had been upgraded. everything seemed like it had been redone except for the floors. All the floors in the house were like linoleum. So it was funny to me. It just seemed like somebody came in with a whole bunch of linoleum, put it like in all of the rooms. And it freshened up and made everything look new. But I was like, why would they do all that upgrading with, like Corian countertops and all that type of stuff, and then they put linoleum on the floor? So what she did was she called the agent, and when she called the agent, she said she could see it was a lot of activity from people leaving business cards and notes and that type of thing. So she said, I'm just gonna call the agent and talk to him. So she had him on speakerphone, and she said, I have a client, she said, who saw the house. She said, I know it's under contract. She said, I told her it was under contract when we came in. She said, but I also see that it's a contingency in place. She said, so what's the contingency? And he said, the contingency is they have to sell their house before they can buy a house. He said, if your client really liked the house, he said she can put in a backup offer. He said, but let me tell you, there are a couple of backup offers already in place, or there is a backup offer already in place. And he told her, she said she tried to pick him a couple of different ways and he wasn't budging. And he said, I don't know how long you've been in real estate. He said, but loyalty and confidentiality really goes a long way with me. He said, so I'm not going to answer, a lot of things that you are asking. He said, I've been doing this a really long time. And she said, and I have too. She said, and I was just asking, I can respect it, if you don't answer. She said, but let me ask you this. She said, have they already gotten the house inspected and appraised? And he said, they have gotten the house appraised already. And she said, okay. She said, thank you. She said, and I'll let you know if my client want to do a backup offer. So when she hung up the phone, this is something I remember her saying. He said he wasn't going to say a lot. She said, but as an agent, she said to me, he did say a lot. She said, because one thing, and them already having a house appraised is letting me know that they are really serious about buying this particular house, that they have already started spending their money. So like how you said, they might answer some of the questions and they might not answer, but just because you're asking them questions in so many different ways, it's other things that you can put together.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely, for sure. Questions, probing questions is key. Is key. Now, of course, that situation was they were already on the contract, but just because, like you said, just because something's on the contract doesn't mean it's going to stay, right? Doesn't mean it's going to stay. But yeah. So one thing I do before we go to a listing, with the buyer scenario, is the seller's agent did warn the buyer's agent that they've got multiple offers and that they're pretty low, right? Because this client came in low, right? They made the offer on the property that was pretty low. They made a lower offer, right? In this situation, I mean, it's multiple offers. What would you guys say to your buyer in that situation after the listing agent has armed you with the information that they've gotten multiple offers and that your offer is pretty low, which they could be telling you that your offer is lower than the other ones, right? Anybody want to chime in there? So I would try to pull that out of the listing agent. I'll try to get an idea of what offers are coming in at. And sometimes, I mean, I asked them the question, are the offers coming in below list price? Or do you have an offer at or above list price? And sometimes they'll tell you, sometimes they'll say, I'm sorry, I can't, they just won't give you that information. But some agents will tell you. Some agents have actually told me a number before. So if you just ask the question, they will give you information in some cases, right? So if you've gotten that information, you want to go back to your buyer and just kind of discuss with them of, firstly, you want to have had a great consultation up front, right? To let your buyers know how to compete in a multiple offer situation, the things that you're going to come back to them and discuss, right? So your buyer presented a lower offer. So now you know that there's multiple offers. Now we're in a competitive situation. Now you have to go back to your buyer unless we have to reevaluate. Now you have to set an expectation or refer back to that consultation that you guys have to say, now we're gonna have to pull these strategies out of our pocket. We're gonna have to do X, Y, Z, right? All right. So before we move on to listing agent scenario, anybody have any questions about the buy side? Any questions? Are you guys pretty familiar with, you guys may have had a conversation about multiple offers. Anybody want to have any questions regarding multiple offers? Okay. Gotcha. So I just want to also add with dealing with multiple offers, as the buyer's agent, it boils down to strategy, right? Has anybody been in that situation yet? Anybody fearful of being in that situation or concerned about being in that situation? Yeah. And that's real, right? But as long as you stay confident, as long as you have some tools, you have the tools and strategies, you'll be totally fine. I mean, that's happening all the time now. That's happening all. I mean, I've heard of people having 49 offers. Listing agents having 49 offers, 29 offers on properties is very common now. So it's just certain things you want to do to reposition your buyer to stand out. Okay, and also having your buyer ready to do that, to pull those triggers. Okay, so what do you guys? Anybody want to chime in regards to the listing agent side? Listing agent, how would you guys have that conversation? What would you guys be telling your seller, your client? Anybody? Can I call on a couple people? Can I call on somebody? Let me see.
Lanisha, I would say maybe I would go back to the seller and try to move them towards doing some of the updates that the house needs.
Okay. Now this is what, so in this situation, this is what, as a listing agent, when you mentioned making the updates, right? That's the conversation I would have had with the seller. I would have had that conversation up front because I like properties to be presented in a certain way to allow us to have the leverage, right? To be presented in a manner where we're going to sell fast. We're going to sell quickly. We're going to have less opportunity for a buyer to come back to request anything from us, right? So I would have had that conversation up front. If the seller objected, which I believe in this situation, the seller did not want to make any repairs, right? But now we're in a situation, we have multiple offers. So the house is in demand, right? And people are willing to pay for it without the repairs having been made. So at this point, I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't talk to him about that, but I would have definitely had that conversation initially. I would have definitely did that. Okay, so now we're on the market. We've received multiple offers. People are willing to pay for it. The seller has, like I said, he has multiple offers, and but some of the offers don't work with timing. The sellers need to move due to a job transfer, so they need to sell right away. But then you have this lower offer that came in, and it sounds like they're more in line with closing in a reasonable amount of time. So how would you guys have that conversation? You have these offers. They're not closing as quickly. The offers aren't closing as quickly. And then you also have this lower offer that is probably closing fast and, more in line with the seller goals is as far as closing. What would you guys say to your seller when comparing maybe a list price offer that's closing in 45 days or 60 days? They're asking to close in 60 days. and then you have this lower offer that's willing to close in, let's say, 25 days.
So I think that I believe that, okay, so either way it goes, they have a job transfer, so they're gonna sell. You know that they're gonna sell. Because their backs are sort of against the wall. I would say to the one who can close the quickest, maybe we would go to them with a counter offer, but I would basically be looking at them, I guess, as the best buyer, I guess, in reference to what my client needs the most. And I guess maybe I would just tell my client, we do have a strong buyer. They can close the quickest. They're already pre-approved. I talk to the person that's doing their financing, and the lender is saying that they can close in as little as 2 weeks. So I would say that they're the strongest when it comes to closing, but their offer is the lowest. So maybe just going to them, trying to get maybe a little bit more, but probably just trying to counter offer with those particular people, since the most important thing is that they sell quick. That's what
Gotcha.
I think.
Good.
To add on to that, Lanisha, I would what was the time frame for the most money? Like, what was the time frame differential?
60 days. Let's say 60 days. They're offering list price or above list price, but they need longer. They need more than 30 days to close, right? And the lower offer needs 25 days, only asking for 25 days to close.
So I guess I go with them like how you been saying, just with the money, I calculate the amount of money they'll be losing getting it in 25 days versus 60 days. Because it wouldn't matter if you get more money if you're holding it on the market an extra 35 days. You're losing money in rent, bills, and basically just losing money by sitting on the market. I guess I try to show that to them.
So Lanisha, I might ask what would happen if they didn't close until the 60-day mark? Like, how would that affect them or impact them? Just to see what their response is, and to see, and then compare what would happen if we close in 30 days, and then help them to see comparatively how that might work.
Good.
I would ask, what is that money used for? Are they trying to buy the other house using this money? Or what is the money used for? That determines, or that tells us whether 60 days is better or 45 days is better, right?
That was my question, whether this would be a scenario to use like a home word or something so that they could go ahead and purchase and move out and I don't know, still have that extra time to work on the details of their closing, or take the higher offer for 60 days.
Yeah, those are all great points. Those are all conversations that you'll want to be having with your seller. Of course, you'll get this information up front, right? You'll want to understand and know the seller's motivation. This goes back to the communication, right? So the more you know for where your seller, what your seller's position is, or where they currently stand, what their goals are, then that's going to help you be able to that's going to help you to better negotiate this, as far as having a conversation with the seller. You'll already know a lot of this stuff, right? You'll already know if they've already bought a house, right? Like in the previous scenario, they'd already bought a house in Florida, right? So you'll already know that. You'll know if they're going to, if they even need to sell in order to buy something new, right? You'll know if they're just going to go rent something because they want to get a feel for the new area that they'll be moving to. So you'll have all this information up front. It's so 45 days with a job transfer. You'll have that information already armed with that, right? So that stuff will help you to better consult your client when it comes to handling these multiple offers. So one thing, once these offers come in, one thing that I would do is and some folks use Excel spreadsheets to just and I do this. I lay out the multiple offers just to put them side by side so you can compare Okay, but again, we have to know from our consultation what's motivating to this seller. Is their bottom line motivating, or is closing quickly motivating to them, right? Because some people don't really care about bottom line. Some people aren't interested in maximizing their profit. You know, I can tell you, my husband always tells me, don't try to squeeze all the juice out the orange, you know, leave some for somebody else. You know, that's his philosophy. He'd rather just go if he wants to go, you know. So some folks really do want to they're going to look at that net, they're going to look at that bottom line. So you have to really know your client, know what their goals are, and that'll help you better determine where to go. So with these offers, of course, you got the timeline, but then you want to have conversations with your seller too, because you're going to be looking at the terms of these offers, which is one thing we discussed earlier, right? Closing date is one, which we talked about, closing. Also, due diligence period, right? Is it a general due diligence period where the buyer can just cancel for any reason, or did they just go at the right to request repairs only, right? You know, you guys can do that, right? You can scratch your general due diligence, right? Everybody knows that. Okay. And that just puts your buyer in a position of having more favorable terms, letting the seller know we have this buyer, we're submitting this offer, and the buyer's not just going to cancel because the sky is blue, right? They're only going to cancel if there's a repair, a material defect, things that can't be negotiated, the seller doesn't agree to take on, right? Financing, that's another thing, right? This is a cash buyer. Some sellers will take a cash buyer as a lower offer. Some, you know, it just depends on that seller, that client, right? And again, it goes back to the conversation. Is the buyer putting down 20%? Who's the lender the buyers are using? That's a big thing too. One thing I would, as a listing agent, I would point out, I always have conversations with the lenders. So if I have multiple offers, I'm going to call each one of those lenders and have a conversation with that loan officer, because I want to feel where they are. I want to feel, is this loan officer on top of it? You know, I may search the Rawls group and see if anybody else has said anything, you know, or if anybody has worked this company or whatnot, right? That's really important because the lender is the biggest part of this transaction, and you want to make sure you have a lender that's not just issuing pre-qualification. You know, we use that word is used loosely with lenders, pre-qualification versus pre-approval. Has the lender truly looked at this buyer's documents? Have they looked at the tax returns? Have they looked at the pay stubs? Have they verified this stuff? Right? Everybody follow me? Anybody have any questions so far? So those are some of the things as a listing agent that I will be looking into, the information that I'll be trying to get in order to help my client better assess these offers, to put them in a position where they choose what's best for them. Because we want to make sure we go into contract in a most offer situation. We want to make sure we choose a buyer that's going to get the closing. Okay. We want to make sure. So those are some of the things, like I said, closing date, it doesn't just stop there. Earnest money, what percent? I mean, some people may be putting down higher earnest money. Does the seller want to call highest and best offer? All sellers don't want to do that. You know, some people, but again, some do, right? So those are conversations you want to have in this type of situation, right? Any questions? That was a lot of information. Anybody else want to chime in and say, give any comments on the listing side or questions that you have as to if you're in a position as the listing agent? Anything?
I am in the position, but I'm listening and taking notes.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I have questions, I'm learning, so I really can't I'm at my steps right now.
Yeah.
And whatever teacher is out here teaching, I'm taking my notes so I can apply it. So
awesome. And this is your first listing?
Yeah.
It hasn't gone on the market yet?
No. I'm in my first step, so it's not. I just got my sign with my picture. So this week is when I go and put it in the yard, coming soon. Um, and I'm looking at, some different things before.
Yeah.
I have to put all those things together. So this is the week to crunch time.
Gotcha. Do you think you're going to be in a multiple offer situation?
I probably will. I think even though it's a townhouse situation, right? But I feel like it doesn't even matter because of the market. Everything is going to be multiple offers. So yeah.
Yeah. And
So
I
I'm
can
just
say,
trying to take it
go
all
ahead.
in, so I know my steps. That's why I'm quiet today. Normally I'm talking, but because I'm in the area right now where you're teaching, I'm trying to take it all in. So
Yeah. And as a townhome, I don't know which, we don't have to talk about community or whatnot, but
okay.
it's usually easier when it comes to pricing,
Yeah.
because you want to stay within that
Mhm.
neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did the CMA already a while ago with the client, and that's all taken care of. It's just putting on FMLS and getting the right wording and just make sure I'm doing all of that, and then doing the open house later after the listing, just taking my steps.
Mm-hmm. Good.
That's I'm familiar with the neighborhood, so I'm just excited, but at the same time, just trying to take notes.
Awesome. Good. Did anybody else have any additional questions regarding buyer's agent, listing agent negotiations? I'll make sure I didn't miss anything for those scenarios. Of anything else I would point out, kitchen needs updated, master bathroom needs updated. I would have my buyer totally already prepared for that. As far as from my consultation, because I would have talked about that already. Because when you're in a multiple offer situation, you really don't have much leverage because the kitchen isn't updated if you have other people that's willing to pay at list price or above, right? So I would talk to my buyer about that if they're really adamant about trying to come in at a lower price because the kitchen needs updated. Because you have these buyers over here that's willing to pay for this house and pay more than what you're willing to pay for it, even though the kitchen and the bathroom isn't updated. So sometimes you have to have that conversation, right? And just,
Tanisha,
Mhm.
could I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I'm going to show a house today that's been on the market for over 100 days. And the price has dropped over $100,000 in those 100 days. So if I were to call the listing agent, you think she would tell me why it's dropped like that and why it's been on the market for so long?
Maybe I always ask the question. So I would say ask the listing agent the question. Just try to just ask the probing questions and try to fill it out.
There's nothing in the stipulations or the disclosure that says there's anything wrong with the house.
Have you looked at the history?
Yeah.
Of the listing, the price changes? Have they changed
Yeah.
the price? Have they been reducing? Oh, you said they reduced 100,000, right?
Right.
They've been doing it. Did they do like large increments or just slowly
It's been large increments starting November of last year. They've gone since November of last year, they've gone down $100,000.
Okay, now are they now in line with the comparable sales?
That I'm not sure because it has acreage attached to it, so I don't know what that would amount to in the area.
Okay, gotcha. So one thing I would just say, definitely check out the comps if you haven't really if your client's really interested in it, right? Review the comps and see. Usually if you do come across, what area is this in?
It's in Marietta, East Cobb.
And they have acreage. Wow.
Yeah,
so it's probably not a lot of comparables.
Right.
So that's one thing you have to just analyze and break down. Sometimes when it's hard to find a comp that's really comparable, I break things down on a smaller basis, right? So I may end up going to look at what's the price per acre, right? And compare the price per acre to see how it compares. So if this is a 2 acre this property has 2 acres, similar, you know, home or whatnot and all that good stuff, and compare it to another home that has a smaller lot, right? But if you look at the unit, like the actual price per acre, to see if they line up, if they're comparable, right?
Okay.
Sometimes things are when it's not really comparable, when it's not that many comparables in the area, when you have these outliers, like a 2-acre property versus everything else is like a 1/4 acre or 1/2 acre or whatnot, sometimes it will be at a lower price per acre when it sells, right? It'll be at a lower price per square when it sells, when you have those outliers.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
So yeah, I would look at all that. Definitely talk to that listing agent. Try to, if you can't, just from looking at the history and looking at that property and looking at the comps, if that doesn't tell enough of a story, then yeah, definitely, maybe you can get more from him or her. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions?
We just need like 15 more minutes of discussion and questions. And I promise y'all can go have a lovely Monday.
Do you guys have questions about anything else we discussed today? We'll open it up for Q&A. Any ahas? Anybody learn anything interesting today that you did not know?
I think one question can be, in multiple offer situations that we are facing today, is a listing agent is supposed to follow specific rules of why a particular offer is not selected, even though it had higher price and some of the other things that the seller asked for.
Okay, no, they're not required to, right? Some agents will, most agents, I mean, it's common courtesy to communicate back with all agents if your client's offer wasn't accepted. Not all agents do that. They don't have to. Of course, you know, the offers, most offers have expiration. You know, they're expired. If your offer wasn't accepted, some agents will just let you assume, okay, well, assume that, you know, it wasn't, they went with someone else, you know? But no, it's not a requirement. It's not a requirement. Typically, if I'm in a multiple offer situation as a listing agent, I do like to circle back to the agents to let them know that, you know, unfortunately we went with another offer, blah, 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 you know, just to kind of give that courtesy so they can stop waiting or they can stop calling, because they'll keep reaching out. And as a buyer's agent, you'll want to stay. You want to stay in contact, right? For your client.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Lanisha,
yes.
Can I give you an example?
Yeah.
So, so they know about the craziness of the multiple offer situation on an investment property I had last week. 35 offers, and it took so long going through those, communicating them to the seller, and then I went to like the top 4, and I said, hey, I'm going to be so transparent. You're in the top 4. I am going to tell you exactly what we're looking for here. And if you can increase what you've already given me, please let me know, blah, blah, blah. And so now we basically have the best one selected. I'm going to let them know. I'm going to grab an official backup with the next best one. And then I'm going to send out a mass email. So I'll email myself and BCC all the other agents that emailed me. And I'm going to say, you know, thank you. This is how many we had. And I'm going to give them a pretty good idea of what we went with, because there were so many that were really close. And I'm going to tell them ultimately it came down to being a really strong price above list and no due diligence period.
Yep.
That's excellent.
Because that's feedback that they need to have is, yes, you were cash. Yes, you were 20 grand over list, but you wanted a 5-day due diligence period and someone was willing to do 21 over list with no due diligence period. Thanks for your really, really high earnest money, but that was not as important. And I think that's good feedback to have. So despite having a bunch, I'm at least going to let them all know with an email.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's the kind of feedback I was thinking, you know.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you said how you would send that out, Katie. Because you definitely want to make things efficient for you. So like you mentioned, having that just one email, and remember to BCC everyone for sure,
And then they're not like replying back and everyone's getting it because nobody likes
nobody.
it.
So that's good. Yeah, because some agents will reach out to you and say, well, I know me personally, if I'm representing a buyer and my buyer's offer is not accepted, I want to know why. I would like some feedback so we'll know how to better compete next time.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want you to then reach, again, this is the high D in my disc profile. I don't want you to ask why. I'm just going to tell you why up front. No one's going to call me. Also, you deserve to know, hey, look, yeah, you were 15 grand over, but guess what? Someone went 21 grand over and no due diligence. So I just think that it's fair, for everyone to know why. And now, do you have to disclose what offer you went with? No, but I'm overly transparent and I don't care. My seller's like, I don't care if you tell people what the best offers are, go ahead and do it. Maybe they'll beat it. So
guys, it's like I said, it's many ways you guys can do this. You know what I mean? And also knowing your seller, you'll know how your seller operates, right? And you'll know how to best serve that seller. Even in this multiple offer situation. So Katie gave you one way, she just give it to you. You know what I mean? It just depends on the person. It just depends on the agent, right? Yeah. Any other questions about multiple offers? So that's big right now. Any other questions?
I have one.
Karen, go.
Sorry.
No.
How do backup offers work? Like you just tell the person making the offer, you let them know that you're going to make that a backup offer, and when does that come into play?
So with backup offers, so if you're in a multiple offer situation, let's just keep it to multiple offers, right? We have a backup offer form, right? Most of the time, the listing agent, like Katie said, Katie secured the primary offer, then she also secured a backup offer, or at least extended an invitation because you want to try to get a backup offer if you can. Some people are okay, especially in this market with being in a backup position. But some people are ready to just move on. But there's a form that you use to be in that backup offer position. One of our guard forms.
I just put the name of it in the chat. It's the backup offer agreement.
Awesome.
What's really great about that is that it definitely makes sure that there's someone up next right away if the primary dips out for any reason. So in that form, you will fill out, look, we're good being the backup until this date. Maybe you ask what their due diligence period is and you put a couple days after due diligence. Maybe if your buyers really want it, they're like, whatever, they can walk away the day before closing and we'll still want to do it. So you can put whatever date that backup offer is good for. And then as soon as the primary terminates for any reason, you'll be notified that you're automatically the next one. So if you're a buyer, you absolutely want to be the official backup. You don't want just to be a verbal backup because someone else can slide in there with the actual document.
Mm-hmm. Definitely get it in writing. Have that form signed.
So what's the risk of backup offer from the buyer side? Is that person is tied to the backup offer that they can't look into other houses, or what's the risk?
They can look, but they can rescind their offer.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a form for that.
Okay.
They have a form for everything, right?
There's a form for everything.
A form for it. Everything. Like we mentioned earlier, get abreast of those forms. If there's ever even special stipulations, try to stay away from writing special stipulations if you can. There's already pre-written special stipulations in the guard forms, and you can just search it. It's broken down by category, right?
Yeah.
One thing I was going to mention, as a buyer's agent, and you're in a multiple offer situation, and your client's offer was not chosen, it's always, I may ask additional questions, you know what I mean? Like Katie mentioned, she said something about due diligence, I think, but I may want to know what the how long is due diligence period? Did the buyer go with a general due diligence period? Even though it isn't the MLS, it will show you the binding agreement date, and it should show you when the due diligence period ends. If you look at in the MLS, I know FMLS, I don't know if Georgia MLS has it, but definitely FMLS does. So you can see when they're gonna come out that due diligence period. If you can find out terms about that buyer's offer that was chosen, great. Because if it comes back around, you can jump on that. You know what I mean? If you haven't already secured the primary position, the backup offer position. Right. Any questions? Any other questions about? Yes,
Lenny, I have a question about
Hey, Mike.
option money.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's non-refundable, but let's just say that the offer is accepted. Is that option money applied towards the amount of the purchase?
It actually depends on how you specified on the form. I'm trying to pull that form up. How you on the purchase and sales agreement, you can specify if it's refundable to the buyer, or if it's not, or if it's going to be applied towards the purchase. There's different in that due inspection and due diligence section. You can specify if it's going to be applied towards the purchase. Right.
So if it's not applied towards the purchase, it's just money into the seller's pocket.
Mm-hmm. In the event that your buyer doesn't close, if the seller defaults, of course, the seller doesn't keep that money.
So how would you steer or get around that not being a bribe?
What do you mean?
If it's just money going into their pocket, like here's some option money if you choose me, but it's not being applied to the actual sale, would that not be considered a bribe?
Well, no, I wouldn't say it's a bribe. So people increase their earnest money. So your earnest money is tied to your contingencies. Right. So your money is secure. So this will give the seller additional security of taking their property off the market, especially if it's in a multiple offer situation, right? Because they're taking their home off the market and they had all these other people standing here in line, right? Mm-hmm. And let's just say for some reason, if your offer, you had a general due diligence period and you just canceled just because, the house down the street came on the market, I'm going to go with that one instead. Now this seller had 5 other people, right? And now, since you've taken your 7 days off, we've gone under contract, been off the market for 7 days. The 5 buyers already found something else. So now this seller, it's recourse. You know what I mean? It's just giving that seller more security to be able to.
It's basically like paying for the risk.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I do have a question.
In different ways. Mm-hmm.
I do have a question. On Thursday with Michael, he talked about option money, but he also said that option money is the money that you will not receive back to the buyer. The seller keeps that regardless of if it didn't close or whatever. That is the part. I just want to make sure that was right, because I heard you say the buyer gets it back. I just want to understand that.
Well, yeah. So if you guys look at that, so check out the purchase and sales agreement at some point under number 8, the inspection and due diligence section. It specifies unless the closing fails to occur due to the seller default. So they put that in there. So if the seller defaults, the seller can't just not fulfill their obligation and then take this money. You know what I mean? It has to protect it in that way.
Sure.
Right? Because the seller can just cancel and be like, I got this money. You know what I mean?
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So you guys have any other questions about today's material, negotiating, positioning, preparing, having these great conversations, multiple offers, working as the buyer's agent or the listing agent, negotiating or chatting with agents, talking to your buyers, talking to your sellers. I know it's a lot. And as newer agents, I do want to say, of course, you may feel not as confident sometimes, you know, because of what you don't know. But I would just say, just present yourself in a professional manner, you know, stay confident. People really, most people do not know that you're new. They do not know you're new at all. And you have to like stand on that. You know, if you don't say you're not new, most people don't know. They really don't. And just, you know, be professional always. One thing I always like to tell people as representing more sellers than buyers is fill your contracts out completely. You know, completely with your contracts. Don't leave out your legal description. Okay, that's an out of a contract. A contract is not valid without a proper legal description. Okay, I always attach the legal description to my contracts as an exhibit. Okay, when I receive offers from buyers, when I receive offers at, you know, as a listing agent, I receive offers. I really prefer that we don't have to do so much cleanup with offers, because some agents will just start writing in the legal description, but leaving a ton of blanks in there. You know, that's important. That's really, really important.
And I say something I really like when buyers doing an offer.
What's that?
So if they fill out while you're in DocuSign or Dotloop and you have all the little bubbles already put there, go ahead and put my name as a listing agent, copy paste from FMLS. Because if we're going to accept your offer, I have to go in and add a text box. And if they're already auto-populate, just go ahead and fill that in for the listing agent. I think it makes it look like you're like, hey, look what I'm willing to do. I mean, it's such a tiny thing, but Lanisha, would you say that's a big deal?
Yeah, that's huge. That is really huge, especially, I mean, to me, that should be standard. And it's very important too. If you don't put the listing agent, because all of this stuff in these contracts, notice is included in that, and notice is specified in the signature section. So if you don't put notice, I mean, there's verbiage throughout this contract that refers to what form of notice are you using for this agent to contact this agent, right? If you fax them something and you did not put their fax number, it's not part of the contract, but their email is, but you faxed it. So you see what I'm saying? It just leaves too many gaps, but that should be standard with putting that in there. Also, another thing when it comes to having just your clean contracts is, like I said, the cleanup, legal description, not including certain things. Because if we have to go back and correct something, then now we have to counter that. You have to counter these changes, and now everybody has the initial and all that good stuff. And you want to try to stay away from that as possible. As a buyer's agent in a multiple offer situation or a competitive market, you want to send a clean contract, completely filled out, clean terms, all of that good stuff, everything taken. You want to say, hey, I'm an easy agent to work with, listing agent and Mr. and Mrs. Seller, and here's everything, all the exhibits, everything, right? Don't say the legal description is attached. There's no legal description to exhibit with that's initialed by your client. Okay, you can get it. You can get it from the closing attorney. You can pull it from I would say just go to the closing attorney. That's the best thing. Go. You can have MMH send you the legal description if the listing agent is already provided.
I'm gonna put the contact that I have for MMH. So her name's Claire. So I put Claire's email in the chat if you would like to email her to get that legal description. And just an FYI, I did take screenshots at 4:15. So if y'all still want to ask Lanisha some questions in chat, by all means, please do. If you need to head out, you have already gotten attendance. Everyone's face was on, so I just went ahead and.
Awesome.
Lanisha,
Do you mind putting your information in the chat?
Yeah, I was just going to say that if you guys want to reach out to me in any way, if you have any questions, feel free.
Thank you, Lanisha. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Katie, I don't see it.
Lanisha's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Katie, can you type that in there? Or just send it? I think Katie left already. Lanesha@kw.com is my email. Lanesha, LANESHA @kw.com. All righty. You guys have a great day, okay?
Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you.
All righty.